All right. All right. We have some beautiful people here. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. We have a wonderful group of people. Oh, some people we haven't seen for a while. Mike Gilman, I know you, right? We
Yes.
met?
Hi, how are you?
Yes, I recognize. And then, of course, oh, and we have Jackie. Oh, my God, I love Jackie. Yeah, we have a combination here of a whole bunch of beautiful people from around the world. Aloha, everyone. Tim Shea and oh my goodness, Rosalind and hello, everyone. What I'm going to do here for a minute, I'm going to just take 2 minutes to let people come in. And what I'm going to do is, Dr. Wright, you go ahead and just kind of welcome people. I'll be back in 2 minutes. All right?
Yes, yes. Well, welcome everybody. It's good to see everybody again. Hello to Chris, of course, and Meeting Analytics is in here. Tisha Pinto, I hope you can put your phone on. I mean your video on. Seki, Amy, Carrie, welcome. Carrie, where are you from? I don't think we've met yet, Carrie.
Hi, everyone. I'm from Malaysia.
All right. Thank you so much for dropping in. Malaysia is where I did my BSc. So I love Kuala Lumpur and had a great time there. Spent a couple of birthdays there. Hi, Rosalind. Hi, Tim. Hello, Annie. Hello. I'm going to say this wrong. Yuji. I hope that's not wrong. You can correct me because I love it when people say my name correctly. Our guest today is Steven Sikes. He's going to be talking about life on new terms. If you're just dropping in, Tom, I see you coming in by audio. We are just taking a quick break while she logs in. And while she logs in and she does a couple of other things, because I think she's going to get the other feeds open. I'm Dr. Letitia Wright. So I am just kind of co-hosting and saying, hello, Andrella. I don't think I've met you before. Coda, hello. We love for people to have their camera on because it's a great interaction and you're going to get a chance to ask questions and all of that good stuff. Of course, if you are supposed to be in the witness protection program and you don't want anybody to know you're here, then that might be a time to turn off your camera. But everybody else, if you're not in the witness protection program, please put on your camera. We're one happy family. My favorite person from BSC, Dr. Sage, is here. And it's always special when he comes here because really Friday nights is his date night. And so he gives us a couple of hours before he goes off for his date. And Dame Doria is back.
Hello, everyone. Okay, well, I think you've been introducing each other. So as you all know, this is Fridays with Doria. So use the chat. Make sure that you put all your information about where you're located, and you can promote your website and anything else. That is our networking table. And for those of you that have never been here before, welcome. And we're going to start the recording. And you know, I make a little joke that if you are in the witness protection program, this is a good time to take off the camera, but I don't want you to really take off the camera. It's just a joke, but there's quite a few wonderful people that actually watch this through the years. So thank you so much. We have some gorgeous people here. Tom Gay, you're here. Hello, Tom. Good to see you.
Thank you, Doria. It's a joy to be with you, and I hope you're well.
Well, very well, and thank you. And Dr. Serge Gravel, hello, Dr. Serge, how are you? Oh, we got you on mute there. We can't hear you. Okay, let me see. All right, it's okay. He's changing. Okay.
I had the wrong headset. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Dame Doria.
Good to see you. And we've been talking about Asia. We've been talking business school. That's going to be so much fun. And thank you, Annie. Aloha, Annie Den Han. How are you?
I'm good. How about you? My camera is frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just wanted to say hello to everyone.
Okay. Well, at least I'm smiling in the video.
Yes, you are. You froze well.
I froze well, yes. Thanks.
Anyway, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get ready here to get started because we want to go ahead and just have as much of this wonderful master we have with us. Okay, so here we go. Let me just find the recording. Record on iCloud. Here we go. Aloha, everyone. I am Dame Doria, also known as DC Cordova. I'm the CEO and owner of Accelerated Business Schools for Entrepreneurs, the Money New program. And welcome to another Fridays with Doria. We're now up to only once a month. It used to be that we used to be on every week. That was 3 years ago when the whole thing started with COVID. But now it's, less and less people were showing up, but they're still watching the recordings. I want to ask all of you to mute yourselves. Dr. Serge, I can't seem to be able to mute you for some reason, but you are on. Thank you so much. And anybody else? Seki, please mute yourself. For some reason, the system is not allowing me to mute people right now. So thank you so much because we can actually hear you in the background when you're typing and things. And thank you. So welcome, Rex. Rex Sikes is our awesome master today. Hello, Rex. How you doing?
I am fantastic, Dame Doria. Thank you for asking, and it's an honor, and I'm humbled to be here. Thank you.
And how many times have you been with us in Fridays with Doria? I think this is your third time, right?
I think so. Yeah, at least.
Yes.
And it's always worth it. I love connecting with the people who show up either live or sadly, not sadly, but I mean, some people show up on replay, so we don't have a chance to interact. But I just love the opportunity to be here and meet you and your wonderful people.
Well, thank you so much. Well, Rex, everybody can go to fridayswithdoria.com and read about your bio. And actually, this is going to be up for a couple of weeks. This is the new thing that we do with Fridays with Doria. We leave up the last speaker that we had for a couple of weeks. And so I want to make sure that you send some of the people, particularly when you see the value that we're going to be getting out of Rex here today. And your bio is so interesting because we did put first that you were a master trainer of NLP, but you're so much more than that. And your history is very interesting, but you have more than 4 decades of experience helping probably tens of thousands of people who probably also help many people. And there are sometimes we name big people just to kind of, because people are kind of like, they like shiny objects. And we're going to be talking about that. Well, we want to get away from shiny objects. We kind of want to really get to some of the real substantial people that are out there doing magnificent work like yourself that may not be the best of the best-selling author or on Oprah, but have so much knowledge and experience and have helped so many different people. So today, what I'm going to do is I know, though, a lot of people also know you and kind of recognize you from being an actor. You have that kind of a face that you go, I know I've seen him, And so you've been in film, on television, radio interviews and commentary. And of course, you have been a consultant for news media. And the last time we were connecting personally, you were very sad because you had just lost. You keep losing people in the Hollywood industry. And so you're definitely an OG in different industries. And today, though, the main reason why I have you here today, and I'm going to go ahead and share with you, let me just see here for a minute. I want to go ahead and want to see how to split the screen here so that, let me see, how do I do this? I want us both to be together at the same time. Dr. Wright, can you figure that out for me? I want him to be next to me for a little bit. After a while, he's going to be totally on his own. But it's for right now, it just looks like it's me talking. But I'm going to go ahead and put you on here in a minute. So what I just want to say, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have this particular talk today is because when we met in the 1%ers only room in Clubhouse, Mo Rock brought me into that room and there were magnificent people there. And then, we got introduced at one point as twinsies. because we've been around the industries for so long. And then, you know, I was listening to you, you would listen to me, and we would kind of follow each other and all this and that. But when you really got me was that time when you absolutely said that there's no such thing as self-sabotage. And then, of course, immediately, and this is something for all of us, please, all of us, what we want to do is we want you all to learn that whenever you believe on something so much and you have a visceral reaction when somebody says the opposite, except that you know that they're saying the truth, because it had always bothered me, because I always felt like I couldn't trust myself fully, because there was a part of me that was ready to jump and sabotage me. And that was very scary. After I kind of dissected it and put it together for, you know, together for myself in the following months, and I kept asking you questions and kept inquiring this with you, it kind of changed my life, because I no longer was afraid of myself. And so I want to get started with that, and then we can go more into history and how you came about this conversation, and then also you can teach us a little bit. So tell us more of why the self-sabotage is a myth.
Well, I am sitting with my girl dogs, and the one is starting to act up and become vocal. So if you hear some barking, it's my darling 4-year-old beautiful Bailey. So, and Sasha's right here. She'll be quiet most likely unless she decides to bark at something. But you know, here's the thing, and I write about it in the book. It's actually, I think, chapter 3 of Life on Your Terms. The problem that most of us have is that we are born into a world, there she goes, and we're born into this world, and we adopt or co-opt the beliefs and the values, the judgments, the prejudices, the biases of other people. Come on, Bailey. And we do it without even realizing. We didn't even recognize that a lot of what we think about isn't truly ours. I mean, there's probably no one in the world who, if they hadn't learned from psychology or someone around them, this notion of sabotage, which is a psychological concept that was promoted, you know, decades ago as a reason for why people don't do what they want. And it's a fallacious reason. It's just absolutely absurd if you understand the science or the brain science that says it's impossible to do that. And I'll try and address all of this, you know, in the time that we have. The point is that we've borrowed these concepts from psychology, and we don't even know what they are. You know, we don't. Bailey, come on in here. We don't even know what. Come on, hurry up. We don't even know what we believe, and as a result, there you go, good girl. As a result, we adopt these things and we act from them. And as you said, you know, I always felt like like say the shoe is going to drop, that I was going to sabotage myself. Well, here's the truth. You come into the world as pretty much a blank slate with maybe a little bit of, you know, DNA or predispositional hereditary baggage, you know, but essentially you come in as a blank slate. And from the second that you are a viable human being inside the womb, you are being conditioned. You're being conditioned from your mother and the surrounding environment of the mom and the primary caregivers that are there, and the experiences that they have, and the food that the person ingests, and everything else. And when you're born, you now come out and you're this lump of flesh that really can't do much, and you're completely dependent on others. So your first introduction to the world it can either be friendly or not friendly. You can be scared or not scared. Hopefully, you know, for most people, it's a wonderful experience, but it isn't always that way. But the conditioning begins at that time. You're now there. You're lying down. You can't really even roll over or sit up or crawl or do anything for a period of time. You're being fed, but you're absorbing too the attitudes, these feelings, these sensations of the people around you. And later, and that's Sasha, and later, you start adopting their beliefs, whether the world's a good place or a not good place, whether it's friendly or not friendly, whether you can do something or not do something, whether you're a person of worth or not worth, you know, and you start getting these, you know, as learning experiences. Now, everything you've done is because you learn to do it. You learn to roll over, sit up, you learn to feed yourself eventually, you learn to be mobile, to crawl and walk if you could, and then to run. You learn to read and write, you've learned to play the piano or sing or or you've learned to shower and bathe yourself. You've learned to have prejudices and judgments and all these things, and they're all learning. And you've learned all sorts of incredibly wonderful, useful things. And then we've learned some pretty dumb and stupid things. And here's the thing. The brain prime directive, there's only two things that the brain essentially does. And there's another silly notion that I'll address in this. And that is there's no such thing as negativity bias. This is another one of these bogus things. There's what is accurate is there's a survival bias. Your brain, your neurological system is designed to scan your environment and look for anything that could threaten you or kill you. And so it operates through fight, flight, or freeze. And it pumps neurochemicals and hormones into your system in order to be able to either run away or to fight or to freeze in order to stand another day, to live another day. The other thing your brain does is it wants you to thrive. It wants you to thrive so that you replicate, so that the human species is continued. So essentially, your brain is looking out for danger and wants you to be able to have sex. I mean, not a bad deal, right? So anything, in the jungle, in the urban, stuff like that, where there are physical threats, the body, the mind, the brain reacts in that way. Nowadays, we have some of those, but we also have perceived emotional threats. Somebody looks at you the wrong way, you don't like their tone of voice, somebody gives you the finger in the car, and suddenly, we feel threatened. That's the brain trying to keep you alive. It's looking, again, it's a reticular activating system. It looks for things in the environment that could be a threat. So when you decide you want to change and be different from what you have been conditioned to do, your brain perceives that as a threat. When you attempt to leave your comfort zone, your brain goes, whoa, wait a second, you might die here, because that's all it knows. So it's really there to protect you, not to thwart you, not to sabotage you, not to make you feel, unloved or unworthy, but to keep you alive because it perceives it as a threat so that you can thrive.
Give me 1 second. Can somebody take me off the split? I only wanted that a little earlier. I really just want my beautiful Rex to be seen. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Go ahead. Continue. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
So what happens is that people then, when you decide that you want to do something, your brain is operating. Well, let's backtrack a little bit. Everything that you've learned is laid down and becomes a part of your neural wiring. It becomes a part of you because you're conditioned to have it. In the same way that if you condition your body to look like a bodybuilder, your muscles will respond, and your body will look a particular way because it's been trained, it's been conditioned. Well, that's what happens to us. We get trained and we get conditioned, and we lay down neural wiring, neural pathways. And these neural pathways, to our benefit, become habits. So we're really creatures of habits. We have lots of habits and lots of patterns. And here's the thing about a habit. A habit is something that we do automatically, and it's reliable. You don't do it one day and forget about it and then do it another day. It's kind of like anytime that there's a inner trigger or an outer trigger, and I use that word loosely, but something that allows us the habit to begin to initiate and follow through, we go through them. So people, it's kind of like most people, if they're neurologically intact, know who they are on a day-to-day basis. You look in the mirror and you go, that's me, or that's your name, or that's who you are. You don't one day think you're Bob, and another day think you're Susan, and another day think you're Tom, and another day think you're Martha. You are consistent. Your brain is there to keep you consistent, and to keep you consistent in your thoughts and your feelings and in your behaviors, so that you stay alive and so that you thrive. And so that from day to day, you know exactly who you are and what you're capable of. And then this field of psychology has come along and said, well, there's things that you want to do, and if you don't do them, you're either not motivated, or you're feeling bad, or your inner child is wounded, or you're sabotaging yourself. Well, the point is you can't sabotage yourself. You can only do what the brain has learned to do. And the brain doesn't suddenly decide tomorrow to be doing something different. It doesn't change. It's consistent. The brain is really a series of wired in processes. It's not a thing. You know, we talk about things like the right and left hemisphere, or the brain, or the subconscious, or the conscious. These are just descriptions that we as people use to classify or categorize processes that we don't fully or completely understand. I mean, understand this. There's nothing really as gravity out there. There's something that keeps us on the planet, and the planet's moving around the sun or in the solar system, but we call it gravity. The human consciousness describes it, classifies it, categorizes it, and the human consciousness is incomplete. You know, so to our knowledge, we've not had an example of gravity not working, but because we call it this, we think that's what it is. And the thing named is never the thing. It's beyond our descriptions. It's beyond our classifications. It's beyond our categorizations. It's beyond our judgments. So before humans showed up on the planet, there were ice storms and fireballs and meteors and tornadoes and lightning storms and floods and tornadoes and all sorts of havoc that was brought onto the planet. And there was no one there to say it was a good or bad thing or a good or bad day. Once humans showed up, and let's say they had a spear, you know, or some clothing, or they built a hut, if a tornado came through and took their spear, their hut and everything, they then said, well, this is bad. Why is it bad? Well, because I lost my stuff. Now I got to get it again. It's a judgment that humans make. Now, how do humans make that? They make it with their conscious mind. And this is the interesting thing. There's no such thing as a conscious mind. There's no such thing as a subconscious mind. Those are descriptions for these processes. What we call the subconscious mind is billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of times more powerful than what we call the conscious mind. And they're all part of one incredible thing. You know, our heart and head, for example, our heart and our brain are part of a system. If your heart isn't beating, this doesn't work real well. And if this isn't working, the heart doesn't beat very well. They can't be separated. They're part of one thing. And yet people say, oh, you're going with your head or you're going with your heart. That's where your focus may be. But you can't be anything other than what you are. And that's this incredible entity, you want to call it spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, all of these things. It's all combined into one. And it works perfectly well. And in fact, was it Bucky who said universe? Didn't use the word the. I don't use the word the in front of universe for that reason, because you are universe. Yes. You breathe in and breathe out. Animals breathe in and breathe out. Plants breathe in and breathe out. The universe respirates. It's all one thing. Sometimes it's giving out. Sometimes it's going in. But it's just energy. It's all just this amazing energy. And then this conscious thing, these processes, then start to describe it and try and go, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. And the conscious mind is good for making decisions, trying to direct things so that you can set a goal. You know, it's good for memory or planning. It has certain functions that is kind of its domain or what it's really good at. And the subconscious mind is what carries everything out. So I can't even go get a drink of water. I can say, you know what, I'm thirsty. I want a drink of water. That's a conscious mind thing. But the subconscious mind is actually informed me of my thirst by letting my system, you know, I notice that I'm thirsty and my tongue may be dry or something like that. So I decide I want to get some water, but I can't get the water consciously. I can only get it through subconscious processes. You can't pick up a pencil or a phone consciously. In fact, when I teach meditation, and when Zen masters teach meditation, oftentimes we do what is called walking meditation, or just moving with as slowly as possible, trying to deliberately move no faster than you can consciously direct that movement. And when you do that for a period of time, it's almost like there's an explosion of awareness, because your brain is not designed to do that way. We all have habits, like how fast we walk, how fast we talk, how we move, what we feel. These are all things that have been laid down. And in fact, there's 4,000 words in the English language that connotate emotions, and most people don't have more than a dozen of them that they routinely go through. So you get angry the very same way. Different things may make you angry, but you get angry the same way. The process that happens neurologically, physiologically, follows a sequence. It doesn't one day do this and then another day do that. This may get you mad one day and that may get you mad another day, but the process for getting mad, the process for feeling, it's like feeling hungry. You don't like suddenly feel hungry differently. You recognize it as a signal because you feel hungry, or you feel thirsty, or you feel tired, or you feel alive, or you feel energized. They're all reliable because they're sequenced and simultaneous processes that occur within this, if you want to call it human. I always say it's, you're kind of a bag of skin and bones, a rental vehicle on this planet. But it's all these processes that are working. So if you understand this, you understand that your brain doesn't try to sabotage you. Your brain only does what it learned to do. It does it consistently and reliably and automatically outside of the conscious mind. So when the conscious mind says, I'm going to quit smoking, and the subconscious mind goes, no, you learned to smoke. You're a smoker. It doesn't care whether you smoke or don't smoke. It just learned to smoke. So that's what it does. You develop the habit of smoking. It doesn't care whether you bite your nails or don't bite your nails. But if you learn to bite your nails, that's what it does. It doesn't care if you're afraid when somebody looks at you the wrong way or not. It's just that's what it does. It's learned to do these things. So if somebody goes to you and you go, that's that kind of reaction that your brain has because it's letting that sequence go through. And then you recognize it as I'm afraid or I'm fearful. And then psychology came along and said, well, you want to do things. And somehow your innermost child or your innermost this is trying to thwart you, is trying to sabotage. Why would it ever want to sabotage you? You think about that for a second. What would be the purpose of the brain sabotaging you? It's trying to keep you the same. It's trying to keep you consistent. It's trying to keep you within your comfort zone so that you don't die, because that's what it thinks is going to happen. So in order to get through this, in order to be able to do something new, instead of blaming yourself and saying, I'm sabotaging myself, learn that you have to retrain or recondition or reprogram the subconscious to go, this is what I am doing. This is what I want to do, that these things are good for me. You have to go through a training process the same way you went through the training process when you were a child. Or if you wanted a sculpted physique, you have to condition and train yourself. You'd have to eat right. You'd have to sleep right. You'd have to exercise right. So there's things that we do in order to recondition ourselves so that we can have the changes that we want with greater ease, more fun, swifter, easier, all that kind of stuff, instead of struggling and sacrificing and trying to take massive action and do all these things that are a lot of myths and a lot of BS. So I said earlier, just so you know, there's no such thing as a negativity bias. It is that survival bias. People say, well, the brain looks for negativity. No, it doesn't. The brain looks for things that are a threat to you in order to keep you alive. And as a result, we have labeled things negative. So if a fire comes through a neighborhood, that's bad, that's negative. If you feel less than glorious on a certain day, that's bad, that's negative. So we've labeled these things negative. So the brain learns to choose or to find negative things because it's part of the conditioning. But you can be trained to not be a pessimist and be an optimist. You can be trained not to be negative, but to be, positive and powerful. It's all part of the learning, the conditioning process that we go through.
Wow. Can we all unmute and just give them the biggest hand? Are you guys like, come on, let's all unmute and just give them a big hand. Come on, you guys. Wow.
Break it, brother.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
Well, I hope it's helpful. I mean, because if you understand it, first off, if you understand, you work perfectly well. You and I and all of us work extremely well. It's like your computer. Your computer can't go outside of its programming and sabotage you or sabotage itself. If there's a glitch in the programming, there's a glitch in the programming. If there's something that, it doesn't suddenly manifest, things outside of somebody training the computer. Does that make sense? I mean, it's not a perfect analogy because we're not machines. We're far superior. There'll never be a machine that can do what we do as far as,
Well, that's the thing. And so let's talk about this for a minute, because you and I were having this conversation a little bit earlier, which is that, okay, so there's all these different sciences, and then there's NLP. Mm-hmm. And hold on, who's managing the views? Can you cut them so that when I speak, I'll go to me? Whatever I asked earlier, undo. Okay, because right now it's only going to, yeah, we want it to automatically. Thank you.
Don't you have to set your speaker view on your own computer?
It's actually, long story. It's I like it so that it goes to the people that are talking. And something was undone. It's okay. It's like we're talking about computers. Wow, programming. So anyway, so we were talking about it earlier, because sometimes what people think about that whenever you're training the brain, they kind of like move away from the spiritual aspects of consciousness, of who we really are. So I know that you definitely, your history is that you have many different disciplines, many things that you have learned and have taught for decades and decades. So tell us about, where does consciousness kick in? How do we tap into that? Because I found that for probably the first 10 years that I was working on myself, that I was consciously rewiring. When I look back, and particularly around money and finances, because I was doing fine around money and finances when I was an official court reporter and I was going to grow up to be an attorney. I'm sure that when I became an attorney, I was going to be a very successful one. I had rewired myself into total success. And I also had it from my family. That's a whole other story. But for a while, I forgot, or I got reprogrammed or whatever, but I went back to my default success pattern, right? And then when I went to be of service, I must have had some kind of conditioning, some kind of training, because there was this big contradiction that occurred between me being of service and being wealthy and creating success. So I had to do a whole lot of clearing, and then got myself to that place of what, that word that I love so much, deservability. So can you just kind of like go and just share with us your thoughts around that? Thank you.
Of course, I'd love to. The truth is this: you're already that which you seek. Now, did you want this view to change?
Did I want this beauty?
The view. I mean, I see myself now. I don't see myself as a speaker. I see myself.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, I didn't know what was going on. All right. You're already that which you seek. This is the thing that here, being born into the world is such an amazing thing, because we get conditioned inadvertently and purposefully wherever you grew up. You cannot not be conditioned to the society, to the family, to the religions, to the politics, to the media, to whatever is going on. So if you're born in the jungles today, you have a certain conditioning. If you're born in, civilization in a big city, that's different than being born in a tiny city. Whatever country you might be in, you're being conditioned, and you can't escape that. And part of the conditioning globally has been that, for example, we are different. We are different colors, different races, different nationalities, and some are better than others, and some are worse than others, and there are good people and bad people, and again, the truth is, just like before humans showed up on the planet, lots of things happened. There were sunny days and rainy days, but nobody called them good or bad. What human people do is they tend to label things. We classify insects in terms of all sorts of things. How many different insects are there, and how many different fruits and vegetables are there? How many different political systems are there? We keep, breaking things down and classifying things. So, but here's the thing that people miss because of their conditioning. You're already that which you seek. You are amazing. You are infinite possibilities. You are infinite resources. You are infinite opportunity. You are an enlightened spiritual being, if you want to call it that. You are true and pure awareness, but it's been covered by these layers of conditioning so that most people don't even recognize it. One of the true things about science, and science, by the way, a lot of times, a lot of the experts are the very people who are wrong about a lot of things. They'll say, oh, that's impossible. You can't do that. Or doctors are notoriously wrong. They're also very good and useful to have. So we need to understand that, there are rainy days and there are sunny days. There are good doctors and bad doctors. There are good scientists and not so good scientists. I mean, there's all these different kinds of things. And in it all, we try and make sense of it. There's only one thing that we are certain of, and we describe it differently, but that is everything is energy. When they went from the Newtonian model to the quantum model, or the Einsteinian model to the quantum model, they went, oh, well, the tiniest particle is an atom. And then they went, well, the atom isn't a particle, it's actually energy, and it's made up of these other energies like the electron. That's just energy. So the more that we've studied, the more we realize there's nothing there but vibration. It's just energy. And here's the amazing thing, whether it's Jupiter or you, whether it's my dog or a can of peas, that's just energy vibrating at different rates. It's just vibrations. And the human organism picks up these vibrations, translates it into sight and sounds and things that we see. So if you look out at nature, you see trees and grass and birds and that, we recognize these things. They're all just energy. It's all one form of energy. And it's not good energy or bad energy. It's just energy. And energy can't be created or destroyed. It can be transformed, but it can't be created or destroyed. And it's ever present eternally, meaning past and present is the same. Here and there, it's the same. There's no difference. So here's where the human comes in and fouls things up, if you want to call it that. They go, I don't have enough energy to get through my day. And that's bullshit. You're a walking battery. You're a self-generating system that works with all the other energy in the world or the universe, in everything. You're all one thing. You and I are all one thing. We're all part of one thing. The analogy that I use, imperfect though it be, is if you had a mirror and you broke it on the table, there's all these little shards of glass and little dust and everything else. All those little pieces are still the mirror. But now that they're pieces, they think they're separate. They think they're different. Some think, well, I'm bigger than that piece, and that's just a little tiny piece. So they make these judgments. It's kind of like taking a drop of the water from the ocean and putting it on your dining room table. It's still the ocean. It's the entire ocean in that drop of water. But now it's somewhere else. And so we don't think of it that way. Our consciousness can't grasp this stuff. That's what the conscious mind is limited to being able to do certain things. And why? Who knows? You can say there's a God, you can say there's infinite intelligence, you can say there's cosmic consciousness, who knows? But the point is, we're just energy. So you are already that which you speak. The question is do you realize it? Do you recognize it? Do you embrace it? Do you celebrate it? Or are you spending your time complaining about stubbing your toe and the thing that you don't like and not having enough of this or having too much of that or doing all these things that keep you separated from who you truly are? And all of those things that we talked about earlier, the beliefs and the values, our character, our judgments, are all part of that process. So consciousness for us is the ability to direct our attention using the conscious mind. The notion is energy flows where your attention goes. So if you put your energy into problems, what do you end up creating or perpetuating? More problems. If you put your energy into love and kindness and generosity, what do you end up perpetuating? More of the goodness or the wonderfulness. So we're these amazing walking batteries. Napoleon Hill and others have described us as receiving and broadcasting stations. We're like, the world is round. We're standing on the side of the world. We're actually perpendicular to the globe. We're actually walking, moving antennas. And we broadcast, we vibrate, we send all this stuff out, and we're so much more powerful than we think we are. And we live so beneath our means because we've been conditioned to think that we aren't. We've been conditioned to say, well, I'm an American and that's an Australian, or this is a Malaysian, or this is an African, and somehow some are better than others and this kind of thing. And that's all just the BS that we've adopted. And it's the stuff that keeps us from realizing and recognizing who we are. But you can, you can. I write about it in my book. I do it in my programs and workshops. Throughout human history, we are everything, think about it, everything around us. I have a saying, it's celebrate everything. The problem with most people is they celebrate the good times and they loathe or they moan or they complain or they cry or they whine or they excuse the bad times. So they like some things, but they don't like other things. And there should be discernment, and there is the possibility for doing that. But when you learn how to celebrate all of it, when you recognize that your brain isn't sabotaging you, it's a gift. And your conscious mind isn't inferior, it's a gift. And you are a gift to the planet, you're a gift to your families, you're a gift to the environment. The environment is a gift to you. All the things that go right are gifts. Everything that goes wrong is a gift. These feelings that you have of inferiority or depression are gifts because they're signals that allow you to become conscious of something that's going on that is unlike what you consciously wish, so that you can then direct your attention in a different way to transmute or transform the energy to become more of who you already are. So it's really a release and a let go. And the notion of self-help industry or self-improvement or personal development is so fraught with myths and erroneous information and putting people on hamster wheels in order to perpetually try and change and get enough stuff together so that they are something important when you're already important. You are life itself. You and I, we're all part of the same thing. Again, it's not a thing, it's energy, but we're all part of this very same miraculous thing. And it's so magnificent that we can't comprehend it. And so we live with these silly notions. And then we go, I'm having a bad day. And if you say that, it's likely that you're going to keep the bad day. People get up in the morning, they get on the freeway, and they go, I can't believe this jerk on the freeway did blah, 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 blah. And they talk about it at lunch. They talk about dinner. 3 weeks later, they're talking about it. 40 years later, they go, that jerk on the freeway. So they miss all the glory because they're focused on all the crap. And the crap is there to help us transform. I mean, it's a gift. It truly is a gift. The guy on the freeway that did that, the feeling that you had of being inferior are gifts to help you awaken.
Wow. How many of you are going, are you liking it? Are you loving it? Let's let them know. Let's unmute and say, thank you so much, Rex. We love this. Woo!
Thank you.
Wow. Amazing. So
Fantastic.
I have 10 questions, but I'm gonna open it up here for some
Well,
people.
let me just add.
Yes, go ahead.
That it's not about understanding it intellectually. That can be a start that can put you on the pathway. So it's an introduction. But just talking about it is not the same as experiencing it. Kind of like we could talk all about sex, but if you've never had sex, you don't know what you're either missing or what you want to avoid. You have no experience of it. If you never eat an orange, you don't know what an orange tastes like. You can't accurately ever describe it, even if you've tasted it, if the other person hasn't had the experience. So this isn't about attempting to have a philosophic or intellectual kind of understanding of these processes. It's about going, I can actually experience this and go into this so that I can awaken to who I truly am, and you can awaken to who you truly are. And again, we're all in it together because we are it together.
Thank you so much. Everybody mute yourselves, please. Otherwise, it goes to you. Thank you. So very quickly here. Okay, everybody mute yourself. Thank you. I have the system, so I'll go to you. I absolutely, I have so many questions. Like, for instance, I have been a Ho'oponopono practitioner since November 1984. And I have this absolute experience now. At first, I didn't even believe in it. It was like, oh, well, I'm hoping that this is going to work. But then I noticed, and particularly because I had the honor of being around Morna Simeona, who came to live in our property for about 3 or 4 months. And I saw this spiritual transformation that occurred on the land, what started happening to me. Like, I would come back from a Money and You program where I had picked up all this different energy, and she would say, honey, come in here. And she would do this cleansing and this Ho'oponoponos and these advanced Ho'oponopono prayers. And I would feel like I had just taken a shower. It was so profoundly powerful. And when I look back at my life, it has been such an incredible gift that has happened for me and for many others. And I have physical results of my organization. I have that I don't get involved in lawsuits. I don't sue anybody. Nobody sues me. We go through resolution. I mean, I am the most peaceful of them all, of all the different organizations out there. And I know that I have something to do with that too. But I also feel that, you know, when people talk about they have to get off of social media because they have so many people attacking them, I go, whoa, that doesn't happen in my watch. You know, it's like if somebody brings up some feelings, I actually follow up with them and go, is there something we need to talk about? You know, it's like, and so I do know that I take action for resolution, but I also feel that I am blessed out of all the different prayers and the love that I focus on and seeing as much as I can, you know, the gift and the blessedness of people that may be upset with me or with something that we have done, right? So tell us about that. How in your experience that comes about?
But a great question. My purpose on the planet that I discovered and why I wrote the book and why I do the programs is to connect people up with where they are to where they want to be, you know, to simplify things, make it easy, make it palatable, understandable, so that people can discover how truly incredible they are. And it's an interesting thing because there are statements and phrases that we have, you know, throughout history, like birds of a feather flock together. Now think about that for a second. You know, I use that oftentimes, you know, with the law of attraction. I go, you know, if you throw a boomerang out, a boomerang comes back. You don't get a teacup back. What you put out, you get back. You know, who you hang around with, birds of a feather flock together. So if your energy and you're putting out and you're vibrating wonderful stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that nothing not wonderful will happen, because not wonderful stuff is a judgment. Okay. Anything and everything that happens in the universe, whether there's an explosion on the other side of Mars, you know, or a bird falling out of a tree, are all part of this process called life. It's just what is. And the problem with most people is that they fight what is. You know, we think, oh, well, I should, you know, because we've been conditioned to go to school, get an education, get a job, work for so long, retire, you should have so much, you should have these things. We've been taught to chase things instead of be who we are. My attempt in my programs, my workshops, has always been to introduce people to the notion of being. And when you are it, you start doing the right actions intuitively. They arise from your being so that you can have what you want to have. And so much of the personal development field has it the other way around. These shiny objects, these celebrity gurus, the whole thing go, if you really want a car or a yacht or a career or money, then you have to take these actions and do these things, and you have to struggle and sacrifice and risk and do all this stuff, you know, and sleep at night and understand people will try and sabotage you, blah, 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 but take massive action and do these things so that you can be that person of importance. You know, so you're working at it backwards. You're trying to get things by doing things in order to feel deserving, as opposed to you already deserve it. And so what you're describing is that when you are feeling aligned and you're feeling congruent, the energy that you put out is the energy that you attract back. You don't get other things back. Now, does that mean in the world that something couldn't go wrong? Yes, it doesn't mean that. You know, things can be different. In other words, a star can explode tomorrow. That's not bad. That's what is. See, here's the understanding that my goal, like when people come into a program, you know, we go through a series of exercises and experiences and things, you know, and meditations and stuff so that they can understand this at the DNA level, at the neurological level. Even if they just get a taste of it, it's so much better than just a cerebral, you know, appreciation for it. But that is that in the universe of our description of it, scientifically, mathematically, there's this notion of cause and effect. If you look at an effect, there's a cause for it, and if you look at the cause, you can find the effect. They point to the same thing. It's kind of like you have a right and left hand, you know, and the saying, you know, a bird in order to fly has to use both wings. So in the real world, a battery has a negative and a positive pole. They aren't negative and positive in the way that we think in terms of, but there's energy in this form and energy in that form, and we call it negative and positive. There are things that happen in the world, and they happen, but we call them negative or positive. We call them good or bad, and they are just things that happen in the world. Then we react out of our conditioning to those things in the world by then judging them and calling them unwanted or bad, or that they prevent us, or somehow this is terrible. It may seem that way to us because we value certain things. So, when a forest burns down and plants and animals and birds die, we call this a bad thing. That was going on long before humans showed up. And I'm not a fan of animals being consumed by fire, but it is what happens in the world. And so do people, and so does property. So I understand that, that as a community member, you would say, well, this is unwanted. We want to prevent fires. We don't want people to have a loss of this, that, and the other thing. But in science, there's the notion of reverse opposites, of polarity, that for everything that's good, there's that equal and opposite response in science is to have something, we'll call it not good, just as a description. For everything not good, there's something that can be good. So if a fire burns through a community, you know, and the press does this, they run out to, so how do you feel about this? How do you feel about it? There's always somebody who goes, I've lost everything. This is horrible. I don't know what I'm going to do. We have nothing. Okay, this is horrible. This is devastating, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the other person who goes, I was gonna move anyway, or I'll rebuild, or it's only stuff. And what this informs us is that the response or the reaction that we have is based on who we are. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm not trying to say that person who feels they've lost everything is wrong. That's how they feel. That's their conditioning. That's what they feel. And the other person goes, you know what? It's not a big deal. I'm just going to, we'll get over it. This is what happens when a fire burns in a forest. There's actually a process where it cleans out the undergrowth so that new things can grow. And if that fire didn't come along, new growth wouldn't occur. So there's a blessing hidden within the appearance of not so good. And this is the thing Napoleon Hill talked about a lot, said inside of every adversity is a seed of equivalent opportunity, but the seed may not be obvious. You have to seek it. You have to find the opportunity that's inside the adversity. And what happens is most people look at the adversity and go, I'm screwed. This sucks. I hate this. And what are they doing? They're using their energy and their attention to feel less than glorious and to perpetuate the very things that they want to avoid. So this is why I say celebrate everything. When you can learn that, hey, you know what, this appearance of bad happened, it's really a blessing for me to find opportunity. It's for me to find the gifts. It's for me to find the lessons. It's for me to find all the resources and possibilities and opportunities that are inherent in something that appears bad to my consciously conditioned mind growing up in a society. But when you can truly celebrate, whatever happens, you are free. You are free from all the things that happen. So if you can free yourself up, which you can, and people do, then more, it seems that it also opens the floodgate for more and more good to occur because you're fighting things less, you're resisting things less. You know, if you do this, there's this pushback. That's why we say if you resist, what you resist persists. So when the bad thing happens and you go, I don't want it, then they get locked in this struggle. And what do they end up doing? Creating more of it. When this happens and it goes, it doesn't matter to me, it can be anything it wants to be, then you open it up for the energy to be whatever you'd like it to be. So what you describe is, you know, if I live in a particular way, then mostly the good that I'm putting out will come back to me. But that doesn't mean that a building couldn't fall in your neighborhood tomorrow and do something bad. Then that would be a gift and an opportunity. I mean, this is the thing. This is the universal consciousness, if you want to call it, giving us gifts in the same way that if you feel like you're being sabotaged, or you feel like I don't deserve it, if you feel afraid of something, or you're worried about something happening, those are gifts. Those are signals so that you can notice them and transform them so that you can get closer to who you truly are. Most people try to run from them or fight them or aggressively change them instead of celebrating them, instead of go, whoa, I'm scared right now. How marvelous, because it's informing me that there's something I need to pay attention to. And if I pay attention to it and I allow it and I release it and I let it go, then that energy can become what it's meant to be, instead of me trying to fight it down and suppress it and push it down. And that's what the psychology of self-sabotage and negative, and a lot of the self-help stuff is push down the things that are truly natural to you in order to be a conditioned human being and fulfill that programming instead of being who you are.
Wow, I love this so much. If you guys can just put little hearts or whatever to show him if you're getting this, thank you so much. I'm going to be opening it up to questions here in a few minutes, and I'm just going to go ahead and
I have a tendency to talk too long too. I mean,
it's okay. I know how to work with you. We've been in too many rooms together.
Yeah.
I was just going to say very quickly, I'd make sure that you use the chat. You can put little notes there. And I love, some of you are really contributing to the chat, when you see the replay. And I know you're going to want to send people to this replay. And just go ahead and just send them to Fridays with Doria. And remember, once they register, they become part of the Accelerated Global Entrepreneurs Club, which we're going to do stuff in the future someday. I'm not in a rush. And but they will be part of an amazing network, and they will then get the replays. And this is going to be a replay that you're going to want to share with people. But I was going to say something about I was posting a little bit earlier about the book, that the Access to Cash book, which we actually revised, and it's up in Amazon now, and you can actually go to accesstocashbook.com. There's a gift there for you to get organized. But also it takes you into the Amazon link. And I recommend it. There's a few blank pages that we need to fix, but I recommended that you actually get the copy of the book itself. And that was a distinction that I got, Rex. I can't remember now. It feels like it was a couple of years ago, but it feels like more like 10 years ago, something like that, when I began to have this new definition of wealth. And it was this realization that I had, which is the true definition of wealth is access. And then I work with David Fagan, who really did a good job at curating the book. And what I mean by that is that we had all these conversations, and he pulled out of me all this information, and then he put it in writing. And then I was able to correct it and all this and that. And when I got it back, it was like, whoa, this is like really some great distinctions on all the access that we have. So in my reality, in my universe, what I see as wealth is accessibility. And of course, I continue with Fridays with Doria to bring in, to keep building that library of magnificent work. And we keep moving into the quantum learning, into the quantum fields. We're moving more and more, and I can hardly wait until we talk here about artificial intelligence here in a minute. But and I keep bringing in different people to share with all of you, because I feel that the people that I am so blessed to attract into my life have a unique way of looking at the transformational world. Now, we've been talking about self-improvement and all that, and I like to separate the work that my mentor and creator of my work, Marshall Thurber and Bobby DePorter, did as the entrepreneurial, experiential, transformational training industry, because we began to really apply it to business. And I just did a tour in Asia, and thank all of you that came over to visit with me and to meet after meeting in Fridays with Doria. It was so wonderful to hug you and to say hello. Thank you for being here with me today too. And our promoting partners who do such beautiful work, Wendy Tan, and then of course the Globe team and all that. And the Australian team is off having fun today, right now, and on a Saturday, and they will watch this a little bit later. But one of the things that happened for me on the road was how much the world had changed And at the same time, I wanted to have you here, Rex, because there was so much conversation about self-sabotage. And I thought, oh my God, I forgot. I really have all these new distinctions, but I think that the best person to do it is actually Rex to talk about this. And I definitely, everyone, I want all to go to rexsikes.com and definitely get his book. And the reason we bring this book, and it's a lot of hard work, you guys, to put these books together, is so that you can go through it and you can, I know that some of you like to, to read it in your Kindle and all that, but I'm still a book person, right? And I want you to just begin to see all these different distinctions, because I notice that I definitely have let go of my addiction to suffering. I really have. And thank God for Sandra Ray and the many teachers from the 70s. And that just really taught me that and guided me there. And even Marshall and Bobby and all the different wonderful teachers that I have. And my current, spiritual mentors like Dr. Sananda, Jennifer Hoff, and all of them I've had on Fridays with Doria. They have really supported me in having this reality of possibility, of accessibility, of deservability. And this is why I keep, talking about this, because I really want all of you to know exactly what beautiful Rex is sharing with you right now. How beautiful you are, how deserving you are, how you can create your own reality, how you have so much access in the Money and You, network. And by the way, I sit through the Money and You programs here in America, but that's only like a couple of years. And during COVID, of course, we didn't. But I had not been in a new language one, like the Vietnamese one, for a long time, where I was there most of the time. And then, of course, the Chinese programs, where I was so excited to see them. I just spontaneously, in front of a couple of hundred graduates that were there to help us with the game on day 3, I just started crying and crying and crying with them. My heart just like, oh, I was just feeling all this gratitude, all this accessibility, because I feel that the world has changed radically, and maybe it's still the same, but I feel like we've all changed radically. And what has happened is that I'm seeing the world through completely different eyes. And it wasn't until I got on that flight and had to go across the planet, and I'm still working on my jet lag. It's been about 2.5 weeks. I'm still like, whoa, because I feel like my frequency and my energy shifted so much out of being in so many different programs. And in Money and You is so experiential. It really does give people, and gave me, and still gives me, an opportunity to make new choices. And I think this is what my beautiful Rex is talking about. Just like the choices are always there. Do we make them for our highest good without all of the, I guess they're glasses, they're like realities that we create. And I actually have this experience right now that we are contributing to the world, working for 100% of humanity whenever we get together and go through all these different distinctions and make new choices for the highest good for all concerned. And it has really worked for me. I feel like it really is working, and it is going to work, as opposed to the reality that sometimes I have seen of, a future Terminator type of world, or this whole thing now with artificial intelligence and the fear that is being instilled in people. And I'm really learning that I need to choose love and light. I really, really do. I have no other choice, because the other choice is freaking like, wow. It just doesn't work for me. And I find it that with my Masters of Masters friends, it doesn't work for them either. And that I am so happy that you're all here, and or you're watching this recording, because I feel like Rex is one of these masters in so many different areas. He hasn't even gone through his background yet. I'm hoping that one of you will ask him, because his background is so fascinating, and just because he has gotten him to this place where he's empowering us so much. So I'm going to be putting more stuff here on the chat about where to go get things and everything else. But right now, and thank you, my beautiful beautiful Dr. Wright, that you are putting about supporting. And of course, I've been changing my whole reality now and all about the homeless. And now I'm meeting not only you, but so many other people that are working so beautifully. I watched that show the other day on CNN that really educated me on the homeless, and it was like, oh, I had that wrong. Oh, no, I didn't have it wrong. I'm actually getting new distinctions, new knowledge. So my energy, what I'm working on myself is possibility of nothing but goodness. That's it. If I focus on anything else, and by the way, I do watch some really weird shows on Netflix and on, I really do. I mean, I watch some very strange shows, and I go, I really hope that people don't believe that is the reality of the world. This is just a movie, you guys. This is just science fiction, but they're so entertaining. But my brain can tell the difference. Yes. It can. I know that that's not real. So I'm going to open it up. I put information about your product and your services in the chat room. I want you to raise your hand. And I see Dr. Wright has her hand up. And thank you. I'm so happy to be sharing this with you. And I have so much gratitude for all of you. And I love Rex. I just he's such a Renaissance man. He's so outrageous. And where did he go? There he is. You disappear for a minute. You're moving around. So Rex, I want to just so thank you. I love you so deeply. You're such a brother. I just feel like, we had some off camera conversations a little bit earlier, and we were talking about some of the movers and shakers, and and I know. And I do want you, though, to talk a little bit about Tony Robbins, just in the way that I love the conversation that you have about he took 4 major NLP principles and built his whole brand around that. And I do want you to talk about that for a few minutes, and then we'll go to questions, because Tony he's such a great marketer, and he has the best marketing machines. And there are certain things that you and I do not agree with him on, and then there's a whole bunch of things that we do agree on. But I mean, he's our Star Money and You graduate. I mean, I remember I have such a deep love for him because I remember him at 23 years old. Right. I also know that he has done some pretty crazy stuff that I don't agree with, and at the same time, I really like to hear from you, having been the OG in the NLP world at that time, and just share about those 4, that little story. Go ahead.
But may I address something before we go into that story?
Yes, of course.
My purpose in being here is to help people wake up to the reality of who they actually are, their authentic self, to transmute the energy and to transcend their daily problems or life, and understand that everything is perfect. And people don't get this, and it fries their brain. They go, well, how can you say there's perfection when all these things are happening in the world? Well, I sort of touched upon it, and that is this: everything is as it should be. We decide whether we like it or not. That's what human consciousness does. We go, I don't like that. That's not good. This is a bad thing. But it is what it is. It is perfect. It is beautiful. It is wonderful. And they go, well, there are wars. Yes, and that's exactly right. Now, as a human on the planet, I go, maybe there shouldn't be wars. If you understand that everything's perfect, it doesn't mean that you can't advocate for change. It doesn't mean that you can't say, hey, I'd like to help people who are hungry. I'd like to clothe the people who have this. I'd like to help the people who are refugees. I'd like to help, make sure that people's rights, there's nothing preventing us from doing that. That is also part of the perfection. What what people fail to realize, and why I have, I wrote the book as an introduction so that people could meet me, come into my programs, have an experience, and transform their lives. And I'm happy that I've been doing this for well over 40 years. But the point is, it is about awakening. It's not about the intellectual stuff. And the thing about how this ties into Tony and our self-help group is that if you understand that everything is perfect, it's beautiful, it's just energy, and that you have a preference for one way or the other, you can direct that preference towards wherever you want. Now, when I was a young actor in Los Angeles, I used to make tea, and my teapot was broken. So the whistle didn't work. So I'd put it on the stove, and I'd go sit in the living room, and suddenly I'd hear this noise of the water boiling, and I'd run in, and the water wasn't boiling. And I'm like, right? And so I had to stand there, and a watch pot takes forever. I'd stand there waiting for my tea to boil, and eventually it would boil. And this literally took me a couple of years to figure this out. Water, before it boils, is noisier than when it boils. And that's because all the molecules, the atoms, are being agitated. There's energy from the heat. It's going 209 degrees, 210 degrees, 211 degrees. But it doesn't change to steam. It doesn't roll or boil into, it gets 212 degrees. So you have to put energy into something in order for it to get to that transformation point, which is 212 degrees. And when it does, it releases steam, and the water becomes quieter because it quiets into a rolling boil. That's what happens with us. We get energy from the tragedies and the disappointments and everything that's going on in the world. The calamity is designed to raise our vibes, not to hold us back and not to be bad things that we try to avoid, but so that we can transform that energy. And it needs to get noisy enough, or you have enough of that energy moving in a particular way in order for the transformation, the transcendence to occur. And sadly, what happens with this personal development field or the self-help field with the shiny objects and celebrity gurus is they keep us caught in that cycle of trying to perpetuate things and have things as if that's what's most important, instead of understanding that the true importance is that transformation, that place in which we are now free, so it's not about avoiding problems. It's about celebrating the problems and understanding they are part of this perfection of everything that's going on in the universe. And if you fight it, again, it goes back to resisting. So it's a matter of release and let go and relax into it, and to have the experience of transformation, not to think about it. Now, when it comes to self-help, back in the old days, so I was known as the master trainer of NLP, which was at one time an honored distinction. Then somebody decided to sell certificates. So now suddenly there's tons of master trainers of NLP. So that and a cup of coffee will get you nothing. I mean, it's not a distinction anymore, because at one time it was reserved for the handful of us around the world who'd been doing this for a really long time. And we all knew each other, and we knew, back in the 80s and 90s, I could tell where anybody studied, because there was only so many places around the world, and so many people had come from, similar schools. So if I met a student in Japan, or met a student in Australia, or met a student in Germany, or met a student in the United States, I could tell who their trainers pretty much were by the way they approached things, what they thought, what they believed, who they quoted, what they did. NLP is beautiful. I have the ultimate NLP home study course where you get to learn with me online, in person, different things, coaching, the whole thing. And you can go to my website and check it out. And I encourage that you do, because there are some really wonderful transformational tools there. And much of what I kind of discuss now, I discuss there, and it gives us an opportunity to connect in Zoom and different things. But the point is that in the early days of NLP, Tony took things like rapport and anchoring and being able to communicate with an audience and create trust, and then lock in, the times when they were excited, so that he could use how they felt to be able to direct them toward, doing the program or changing their lives or whatever. The tendency today in a lot of the NLP programs is, and in self-help in general, is Tony was smart in this regard. He took four of the approaches, the principles in NLP, and applied them and learned to master them. So he got really good at it, right? So let's imagine he learned juggling, and he learned bike riding, and he learned how to sing, and he learned how to, to tap dance, all while doing things simultaneously to entertain. He got those different skills down, and he went really far with those. Today, a lot of people say, you'll see books. Here's the 57 ways to do something. Here's the 101 things for this. There's the 33 things for that. Whether it's NLP or hypnosis or sales or marketing or whatever, there's all these things as if having all these other things is going to help you. They're not. There were let's say a dozen things in NLP that were really powerful at the time that Tony learned. He took 4 and mastered them, and because of the marketing machinery and the people around him, he helped himself build an empire because he could communicate well. He mastered the art of communication. He mastered the art of being able to sell or close a sale from the stage and get people inspired and motivated to be able to do things. And he got really good at that. There's a lot more that's important than just getting pumped up. By the way, it should be said, getting pumped up is fine. Attitude is the #1 predictor for success in all areas of your life. My attitude activator is hands down one of the most marvelous, powerful, probably the last hypnotic audio program you ever need to listen to, because what it does is it guides you through a process to develop the attitude that's right for you in the moments when you need it. Because it's not just about being pumped up. It's not just being rah confident. It can be being fascinated and curious. It can be like a childlike curiosity or a gentle romantic flirtiness. Attitude is how you approach the world and what you use to get through it in a positive way. And why I say that is because a lot of times you go into workshops now where it says rah, and what they do is they pump up a lot of adrenaline. And here's the thing about adrenaline. Adrenaline is your fight or flight drug. It's the one that wants to make you leave. It's the one that makes you want to run away or fight. You don't want adrenaline when you're learning because it doesn't help you remember things. So when you're pumped full of adrenaline, if you're out in the jungle, what happens is your peripheral vision, shuts down so that you narrow your focus so that you look around, find an escape route, because you don't need everything else. You need to go there. It starts taking the blood from your digestion and from your brain, so you're not have to think a lot of stuff, and puts it into your arms and legs so that you can run or so that you can fight. So there's a way of training people that's really important, and having them go through the appropriate release of chemicals. I'm very happy to say that back in the day, and Doria, you know this, back in the day, a lot of the personal development stuff was very grueling, very violent in terms of confrontation, and stuff like that. When I started doing my workshops, I introduced meditation, dance, contralateral movements, laughter. We brought because I lived with Osho for a number of years, we brought laughter meditation to the United States around 1980 and really popularized. Now you hear about laughter yoga, this and the other. But at the time, we would do this. And people in the NLP community and in the self-help community would go, Rex, you are not taking this stuff seriously. And I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. When people come to a program to be transformed, they should have the experience of transformation. They shouldn't have to sit there and suffer through your programs, which is what so many people do. They want to have fun. They want to live their life. They want to go out and do things. So my trainings were designed so that people learn to start, because habit development takes however long it takes. In order to develop a habit, you have to do it correctly, repeatedly, consistently for long enough. Some people say 21 days, some people say 60 days, some people say 2 years. The point is, for whatever it is, that's long enough to become a habit. So if they came to a 10-day or 14-day or 15-day, or they spent 6 weeks with me, in my retreat center, that was the development of doing things every day, consistently, routinely, correctly, repeatedly, so that they would develop those habits. And by the way, if you get my book from Amazon and you go to rexsikes.com/book, I will give you an absolutely free training. It's $497 value. It's called The Mastery Loop. And it's how we master skills, our thoughts, our feelings, our speech, our behaviors, and any talent or ability that you want to do with fun and ease and all that stuff. So you don't have to struggle, and you don't have to beat yourself up, and you don't have to go to boot camp and all that kind of stuff, because you learned more as a child through play and fascination than you ever did sitting in school. Yeah, you learned facts and figures, but do you know, here's the sad thing, and I talk about it in the Mastery Loop, 80% of everything you learned in college, because of the way they teach in school and in college, is forgotten within 6 months of graduation. How much do you pay to go to college and get a degree? To forget 80%? So it's important to know what you're doing. So with that, I hope I answered that question. But the key is if you learn to master, and this is why the book is there in my programs, if you learn to master some very simple principles and practices that I share with you, and you do them consistently like Tony did, then, you know, the world is your oyster, because then you can begin to move through the world the way you want to move. And the first thing that people need to master is their attitude, because your attitude is governed by the beliefs that you have, the things that you consider limitations, or the things that you think. Here's what I tell people. There are people who avoid problems, and then there are people who run hurdles. You know, the Olympics, they run around a track with obstacles in the track that they run at top speed and jump over. And that's part of what they like doing. They like getting over these obstacles. And so many people hate their obstacles instead of embracing their obstacles. But when you can go, you know what, these are there for me to grow, then you can grow. If they're there for you to fight, then you'll get engaged in that fight. And so, you know, how you do anything is how you do everything. Celebrate everything. Attitude, the number one predictor for your success in the world.
Wow, let's give him a big hand and we'll start with the questions. Woo! Thank you, Rex. Woo! All right, Dr. Wright, patiently been waiting. What is your question?
I wanted Rex to talk a little bit about his attitude adjuster and he has a whole program on that, but just the thoughts of helping us get to that point. You know, a lot of people say, oh, just do gratitude, but sometimes I need a little, I won't say anybody else, I need a little bit more than just doing gratitude. How can we adjust our attitude to get there?
Well, so as the Attitude Activator is a program that I put together back in the early 90s based on some of my earlier work and that work. And what it is a program that you listen to with headphones. It's essentially a relaxation program. It's designed with sounds and voices, things that we call universal sounds, which are vocal sounds that people make, or like applause, you know, sounds that are there in the world. That you know, for example, if you hear squealing brakes, you know, somewhere, you know, you're alerted, right? You know, or a bang, you know, that kind of thing. Or if you hear a child giggling, or, you know, something cooing, or, you know, a dog barking. I mean, they trigger different things because you're familiar with them. So there's sounds inside this program that are designed to open up our neurology. Certain sounds close us down, make us fearful and afraid. Certain sounds open us up and make us available and receptive. So there's these sounds, there's a couple of voices that are going on. And what I did was this, and I did it in response to, I'm going to make a confession. I don't want to sell. I don't want to be Tony Robbins in the front of the room and sell another program. People can sell my programs, that's fine. And I don't have any problem, you know, saying I want people to come into my programs. But the point is, and I don't have a problem with sales, but but so many people were putting out audio programs. They had weight loss programs, they had gain weight programs, they had no smoking programs, they had feel good programs, they had get over anxiety, they had all these things. I wanted one program that people could use for all these different things. So I spent more than a year crafting it, researching it, and going through it so that I could design a program that people could go through a process and learn the process. So it literally installs it. It does it for you while you learn. You listen, you can fall asleep. I encourage you to listen and stay awake, but it's designed to be a little bit confusing. So you're not paying any attention to one thing. You're kind of getting lost in this thing. And while you're doing it, you're learning a process of getting unstuck and moving forward, and getting unstuck and moving forward. And if you can learn that process, which you will, if you use this regularly, as I encourage people to do, then you move through. Consider this: when you are told what to do if you were on fire running from a burning house, what would you do? You're supposed to stop, drop, and roll. If you can remember that, stop, drop, and roll, you know how to essentially, hopefully, preserve your life, right? Same thing with this program. It teaches you this kind of 5-step process, 3 main ones, but 5-step process for going through any difficulty, any limitation, any problem that you have, any talent you'd like to learn, any ability, because it's content free. meaning the process is there. It teaches you the process. And while it does, it helps you to uplift. So if you want to lose weight, it'll help you lose weight. If you want to gain weight, it'll help you gain weight. People use it to go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning. They use it to have confidence. They use it to be calm and serene, because that's how I designed it to be. So you didn't have to buy 40 tapes or 50 tapes or 60 tapes. You could buy one and use it for 40 or 50, 60 different things. So it's a really powerful program. It comes, I mean, this is part of my mind design and directed questions that I developed back in the early 80s and things like that. A little bit, which I write about in my book, in my story, is the inside of our life, our head, our body, our heart should be more grandiose than the outside. The outside should be okay, but the inside should be, whoa, I can do anything. And where I got so much from is years ago, I was criticized in a book because I said, and if you understand what I'm about to say, and if not, I can explain it later, but I said, you know what the placebo effect is, right? The placebo effect is not a placebo. The placebo is like a pill or a product or something that is there, like an amulet or a pill or a practice or a procedure, or a doctor giving an injection. Those are all placebo themselves. The effect is, and this is what nobody seems to understand, is that if you think it's going to help you, it's likely that it will help you. And if you don't think it's going to help you, it's likely that it may not help you. And there's plenty of history to demonstrate all of this, right? Here's the interesting thing, is that I said my work, and I was quoted in a book in the 90s, was to help people consciously apply the placebo effect. Meaning, if you believe it, if you can engineer your beliefs to say, I am this kind of person, I believe this, then you can do anything. Henry Ford said, if you can, you think you can, or you think you can't, you're correct. And so many people live with what they can't do, what's impossible, what's not plausible, how they're limited and everything else. And I said, if you just switch that and believe and start believing that you could do it, you can find yourself doing it. And they ridiculed me by saying, oh, look at how stupid this is. He wants to consciously, placebo effect is BS. Well, when I started my work in the 70s or 80s, there was a handful of stuff on imagination, visualization, and the placebo. Now there's almost 50,000 studies that verify how powerful this is. And you can do your research yourself. But I address this in my book and my programs. Mind design is all about having an incredible life and not letting anything stop you. And that's how the Attitude Activator came about. So I encourage you to get it. It's $49. It's something you will use. I've got people who've used it, every day. I don't say you have to, I tell you, use it for a certain amount of time and then kind of wean yourself off it, and then use it whenever you'd like to. But it's just so powerful. And I'm so proud of it because it really, really has helped tons of people. Thousands of people transform their life.
For $50. That's it.
Yeah. For $50.
How many cups of, that's 5 cups of some expensive coffee.
Probably right. Probably, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. That was a great question, Dr. Wright.
It's an incredible question.
Susan Meredith, hello, aloha. What say you?
Well, actually, I have a request for prayers, I guess you'd say. Worry is focusing on a negative future and prayers are focusing on a positive future. And we're lobbying here in Texas for energy bills in the legislature. And I've been down there even at 1:30 in the morning testifying for some energy bills. And Texas is really important to the environment right now. And they asked me to put basically an amendment to a bill that I'm providing information for. So what I'm asking is for people to affirm, pray, whatever you want to say about these bills going through that are going to restrict emissions and use energy storage and do things good with the grid. So, really, focusing all of our energy on that it really goes through. There's some pretty strong opposition to it, but there's also some pretty strong, and we are shifting. Citizens Climate Lobby is, I was the project manager for a lobby day at the Capitol we went to 66 offices, 66 meetings scheduled, and then dropped information at every single office, and we continue to work on it. So just, everybody,
How does it benefit people?
well, it's basically requiring emissions standards for that they're funding new natural gas plants, or trying to force that through, which is not good. And I'll give you the thing: cost, reliability, emissions, opportunity. Cost, reliability, emissions, opportunity. That's what it does for people. Those are kind of the mantra of what we've been addressing. So just please, everyone, just visualize, pray, affirm that Texas is going to do the right thing in this session. It's the next 10 days for energy and the environment.
Thank you.
So can I just want to add a further question?
Yeah.
Is this something that serves the environment and the people, or does it serve the producers of energy, like the petroleum industry or what? I mean, in other words, I don't want to get too political here, but I'm trying to, so that people know what they're supporting.
They're supporting lower cost energy. They're supporting reliable energy, so that the like Uri, we were out of energy for 5.5 days. There's some the main one I would really say that from a I saw on Dame Doria's background policy to change the emission standards so that we will have less CO2 equivalent emissions in the air in Texas and beyond. So that's the big one to me, is really there really hasn't been any focus on that. There's so many aspects of energy. So that's kind of what and energy storage being a key solution to, if you, and I don't want to get too technical on it, but when you already have variable demand and now you have variable supply from wind and solar, that becomes a reliability problem if you don't have energy storage. And they're actually putting stuff in the bill to exclude energy storage from some things, which is totally political. So it's those kinds of things. So it's saying that we're going to have bills that are good for cost to the consumers, reliability.
So I don't want to cut you off, but I'm sorry. So continue, but I do have a thought that I'd like to share with you.
Oh, go ahead. I mean, that is what we're talking about.
For those who understand the power of prayer, and if you adhere to the Bible, and some do and some don't, but the idea is that prayer is if you look at so many of the examples, in the Old Testament or New Testament, the results oftentimes came. For example, he went to Noah and said, build an ark, and there was no evidence that it was going to rain. And so Noah's an idiot, in terms of his community and his family. Everybody thinks he's a nutbag doing, something crazy. He goes to, Daniel, and Daniel ends up in a lion's den. He goes to Jericho and says, make this sound and raise your voices and things will happen. It's all done on faith. And I don't like the word faith. I like the word certainty. In other words, if you're certain for an outcome, that's different than thinking, I believe in this outcome, if that makes sense to you. I mean, it's a nuanced kind of thing. So many of the promises in the Bible weren't to ask God and beg him for something. It was to accept it as if it was already finished, and to give praise and thanksgiving for the outcome that God wanted. So I would suggest to give thanks. Neil Goddard, for example, said, live from the feeling of the wish fulfilled, meaning you have to assume that it's already there and then live as if you already have it. So if you claim the victory and live from that, whatever it is, if you believe in God and God is true and wise and just, and say, not your will, not my will, but your will, have the best outcome for all of us concerned to come about. And then to give thanks and praise and supplication, or and to be thrilled that these are. And I'm not telling you this. I'm just saying that in general, in terms of praying, when you ask for prayers, for us to celebrate something as if it's already occurred, rather than begging and saying, "Please make this thing happen."
Yeah, literally in the test, as part of the testimony I gave, it said, do what's in the highest good of all concerned.
Yes, I know, and you exactly did. You
But,
exactly did, and that's why I have.
I mean, I definitely agree with you that it's really, like I say, it's affirming, praying that the energy bills that are good for energy and the environment will be passed. And I could give you
Right.
specifics, but that would probably be, too much to give.
No, and that's-
Just
and that's
know that that's,
It's a beautiful request.
yeah.
And so in order to support you, I would encourage people to celebrate with you that done for the highest good will be the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a way. I'm an engineer, and anyway, pray is Pray, because I needed a how to do it. Praise, repent, ask, yield.
Yay,
So
there
give
you go.
thanks and praise, repent for when I worry, ask for what I want, and yield. I give it up to
Well,
God.
you do know that when Jesus said, he would say, and this is really important, it goes back to the notion of the placebo. When Jesus healed people, he never said, I healed you. He said, your faith has made you whole. Now go and sin no more, or repent. In other words, and the notion of sinning or repent is the idea of making a mistake. So whatever mistake we might have made, just don't make the same mistake twice. So if somebody was a prostitute or a tax collector or something that everybody thought about, he goes, go, your faith has made you whole, now go and sin no more. Stop making the same mistakes and live, and to live and celebrate. And he didn't claim to have healed them because it was about them being accepting the healing and living from that place. And so, a beautiful thing. It's really a beautiful thing. And so I love it, praise and repent, because repent means to turn from the old way and into the new way. So very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, sure. And I totally believe in the power of prayer. My husband lived a lot longer than he would have because of this kind of community. And, Doria knows that very much so. And so our anniversary was yesterday. So it's very much on my mind. So
Happy.
anyway.
We
So
send
thank you.
big love. It's been a couple of years, right?
It's been 1 3/4. Yeah, it has been a while now.
Wow.
So,
Ooh,
but very much
send
with
you
me in
big
this.
love.
Yeah, he's very much with me in this whole environmental,
Right.
thing, as you know. But the grid, emissions, and energy storage are the 3 things that I've been really focused on this session. So,
So email me and we'll introduce you to Tramocro.
Oh,
the
yeah.
big guy, the big Earth X guy.
yeah, I was actually at his house.
Okay, just now, recently?
No, at before COVID, Robert was with me too, but it was for Earth Day, Earth X.
Oh, yeah, we're probably in the same party. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and go to our beautiful Jackie. Go ahead, Jackie.
It's Michelle Wilson.
Jackie, where are you? Michelle, can you mute yourself, honey? Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Jackie, where'd you go? For some reason, she disappeared. Okay. I think she might have gone out by accident. All right. I wanted to make sure we're going to do one more and then.
She's still there. She's still there on the top row for me.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, Jackie. Do you want to ask a question? You are unmuted right now, Jackie. Just start talking. Okay, so for some reason we're not hearing her. So we're going to go to Reverend Michael Long and Rex, and then if we can do a little exercise before we go, that would be wonderful. Okay, so Michael Long, what say you?
Hello, thank you so much for your insights. Doria touched on it, so I'd love to hear more about your background, please.
I'm sorry?
I would love
About
to
your
hear
background.
Oh.
background, please.
I'm ancient. I've been around forever. I do so many different things. I'm primarily, I love meditation, and I've spent most of, well, as a young person, I was an evangelical tent healer and minister traveling around with a lot of the big name evangelists, and I later became somewhat agnostic and then started to seek both Eastern and Western mystics. And I've spent a lot of time living with different gurus or, in different ashrams or, practicing different meditative approaches, both Christian and non-Christian, and have been an advocate for transformation and have studied and used transformational tools, principles, and practices from ancient times to modern neuroscience times. I'm also an actor and a filmmaker, And so the difference between, say, my programs in the early days and the other programs was like when NLP and S and all these things started, it was all about, getting people to do certain things. And with NLP, it was primarily a tool for therapists in the very beginning to be better therapists and help people change. And I came from an acting background. A lot of people came from the therapy background. So they were all, what's wrong and all this good stuff. And I was like, hey, as an actor, I'm used to being different people and thinking different thoughts and feeling different feelings. And so I would bring play and exercises and fun and transformational experiences to programs. And this is why earlier, I said I had fun and meditation and laughter in the programs. And people say you're not taking it seriously. But it's because of the diversity of my background that I was able to offer so much, or why I am as effective as I am, is because I'm not one thing. I operate off of universal principles. I operate with energy. It's about transmission and transcendence and transmutation as much as it is about anything. And when Doria said accessibility, this is truly important. It is all accessibility. We have access to everything, and yet we don't live like we do. We don't think that we do. And when you do, as Doria has been sharing, wealth, whether it's spiritual wealth or physical wealth or emotional wealth or whatever, comes from having full access to all of that's available to us. And it's infinite in terms of its possibilities, resources, and our opportunities. So, and the other thing is, this is all spiritual, whether you call it, a Taoist or Christian or Buddhist or Muslim, whatever it is, it's all spiritual. A business is spiritual. Money is spiritual. Life, relationships, sex is spiritual. It's all an experience that transcends the very thing that we think about. And because we have this conscious mind and we have these neurological filters in place, we can only pay attention to so much information at a time. But I'd like everyone to consider this, and thanks for the question, Reverend, and that is, all of the cells in your body essentially are working together harmoniously in order to keep you alive. They all are light energy. I mean, if you photograph with the right kind of equipment, you notice that the cells emit light, they emit energy. And there are cells for your heart, for your fingernails, for your butt, for your thighs, for your eyes. They're all cells, and they all work together sequentially or simultaneously to keep this organism alive and to keep it thriving as best as possible, barring any kind of physical or neurological impairment. And if you bang your toe, you stub your toe, what happens is the attention goes to the toe. There's nerve endings that are there for what reason? So that you don't re-injure it. The pain is there, part of the healing process, but it's also there to let you know that, hey, this is an area that needs to be healed or preserved. You have receptors in your hand, so if you stuck it on a stove, it would be painful, so you take your hand off so you don't burn your arm off. So these are gifts to us. These are all gifts to us. But if you stub your toe and the attention goes to the toe, what people forget is that all the rest of the body is working perfectly well. They don't pay attention to the fact that they're digesting their food, they're processing things with their head, they're feeling things with their heart, their hands and back and everything else moves. They're focused on their toe. And that's the nature of attention. Well, where you put your attention matters. And so my work has always been around attention. It's been around beliefs and attitudes, and how do we overcome what for most people would consider limitations or difficulties, to be able to celebrate everything and to celebrate all of it and to be free from where most people are caught up or stuck in everyday life. So I thank you for your question.
Thank you.
And there's Julie, I see. Thank you, Reverend.
Yes, hi. I'm not putting on my video because then my whole internet kind of crashes. Thank you so much. I know you kind of touched upon it earlier, but I'm curious how, people say, why do bad things happen to good people? They do the right thing and they, try to help others and they live a good life, or, but then like terrible things happen. They end up in these bad accidents, they get fired, or, something, just stuff. And aside from people saying, it's when you were talking about spirituality, it's karma or it's, predetermined or whatever, I'd appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go with the Bible. I mean, not because I prefer the Bible or anything else, but let's just go with that for a second. Look at all
Well,
the.
I'm actually Hindu.
No, yeah, no, but I mean, you find it in Hindu, you find it in all religions and philosophies around the world. But what I say is with the Bible is if you look at the Old and New Testament, filled with crap, filled with horrible things, filled with drama. If you look at Jesus got crucified. I mean, it wasn't a good day. It wasn't a good Friday for Jesus. So the point is that things do happen. If you believe in a God, or you believe in gods, or you believe in the universe or infinite intelligence or cosmic consciousness, or whatever it is, you have to understand that things happen. And then we put a philosophy on it about why did this happen to me, or I'm doing good, so how come? And why am I so unlucky? When in my book, in my story, what I discovered is I had a series of tragedies in my life, and the one that I write about, and I still do. I mean, I live a charmed life on the one hand, and yet there's chaos all around me, and that's all part of it. It's not the absence of chaos that is the point. It's the idea that no matter what happens, you can celebrate it, and you can live, and you can thrive, and you can contribute, and you can be compassionate, and you can love and have the kind of life that you want. So, I had a situation where I almost died, and then I tried to kill myself, and I finally, in order to try and claim my life back, I locked myself in my apartment for about 6 weeks. It was actually longer than that, but 6 weeks is enough to talk about. And I locked myself in, and I made a vow to myself that I would not leave until I could go out and face the world with confidence and win the friends back that I had lost and claim a career back that I had jeopardized and all sorts of stuff. And I sat in this chair. I went out to get some food every now and then and bring it back and then sit in the chair. I did use the bathroom, that kind of thing. But I sat in the chair for 15, 16, 17 hours a day for almost six weeks or longer. And I started by going, why did this happen to me? How come I'm so unlucky? How come, I had a girlfriend, a fiance who left me. I had friends. How come these things happen? What did I do wrong? And all this good stuff. And a couple of weeks into it, I suddenly had this epiphany. I go, I don't care why any of that happened. I don't need that. What I wanted to know is how could I begin to feel good about myself now? What was good about me that I could focus on that would allow me to go out and live the kind of life that I wanted? How could I go out and have a celebratory time, a fun time, an enjoyable time, and live the life I wanted to do? Maybe get the girlfriend back, maybe not, but have a life back. And I realized that I had been asking myself wrong questions. I'd been directing my mind toward the problem and the crap and the stuff, going, why is this? Why is that? Woe is me? Woe is this? And truthfully, none of it mattered. What I needed to say was, how easily can I find myself going out and confidently facing the world in a way that surprises and amazes me, and so I started to direct my mind toward what I wanted to have as an experience instead of what I didn't want to have. And when I started to change that within a very short period of time, I noticed a change in me. I noticed things starting to happen, things starting to move. And when I emerged 6, 7, 8 weeks later, I didn't bust out of there like Superman. I busted out of there more like a tender toddler, but I got out and I was able to do it. And as I moved through the world, keeping these things in my mind, which was part of the attitude activator and mind design and everything that I put in my NLP programs and all of it, is that as I went through that, what I discovered was developing that attitude, developing that awareness that I had been inadvertently, because of my conditioning, because of my past, because of my history, because what I was used to was to look at myself as a victim instead of a victor, to look at myself as a loser instead of a winner, to ask the questions that made me feel crappy instead of ask the questions that made me feel wonderful, was the most of the problem. And so I started to ask myself and direct my attention and my energy into, how incredible I am and what can I discover about myself that's truly amazing, and how can I feel more alive and joyful and happy and wonderful instead of why did this go wrong? And so when you look at, say, Jesus on the cross, he said, well, if it's your will, let this cup pass from me when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane. But when he's on the cross, he goes, not my will, but thy will, and it's finished. In other words, I've completed this thing, and into your hands I commit my spirit. It was like a bad thing. But if you believe the Christian, philosophy or the religion behind it, it was a good thing. So everything has to do with what we perceive it as, and if you look at something as a problem, it will always, always, always be a problem until you change your attitude, your mindset about it. If you look at it as a possibility or a solution, then that's great too. And sadly, here's where people get screwed up. Sometimes what they think is the solution to their problem is more of the problem. This is why Einstein said you don't solve the problems at the same level that the problem was created by. You have to have a transformational leap. You have to approach it from a different point of view, outside of the box. And think about it, point of view or your outlook on life is how you look at the world from in. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story from Napoleon Hill. And that is one of my favorite stories. One of my favorite stories is it's in the first chapter of Think and Grow Rich. And that is the story of Edward C. Barnes. I'm sorry, my dog just ran out into the darkness, and I'm just making sure she's... Bailey, Sasha. Okay, good girls. Edwin C. Barnes, you're introduced to in the very first chapter of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and it's this. Edwin C. Barnes wanted to work with Edison, but he didn't just want to work for Edison. He wanted to be a partner for Edison in the book. And so what it says is that at one point, this wish that he originally had became so obsessive in him that he jumped a freight train dressed as a hobo to get to New Jersey in order to put Edison on notice that he was going into business with Edwin C. Barnes. And so when he got there, Edison met him, said there was nothing remarkable about him except the look in his eye. That Edison said, I've known enough in my life to, when somebody looks like that they have that look in their eye, there's something going on inside them, to take them seriously enough. And so he gave them a job to be a janitor in his warehouse, not a partner, but a janitor. And if you turn a page or two, it later says for 5 years, there was no outward evidence that he would ever be a partner of Edison. For 5 years, he kept his dream alive inside of him, keeping his desire alive, saying, I am Edison's partner, I am Edison's partner, I am Edison's partner, until 5 years later, after 5 years of no evidence he would ever be a partner, an opportunity opened up when his Edison salespeople couldn't sell a dictaphone. And he said, he said, I need somebody to sell this. And Barnes said, I'll do it. And Edison said, okay. And Barnes was so successful at selling this dictaphone that nobody else could sell that he made him a partner. And Barnes later retired and died a very wealthy man. But he had to ignore the circumstances around him in order to keep his dream alive. He couldn't be focused on all the reasons why he wasn't yet a partner, or that he wasn't a partner, or that he was no closer. He didn't do the thing which a lot of people do. They come to Hollywood, for example, they go, I'll give it a try for 2 years, and if nothing's happening, I'll go back, or I'll become this, or I'll become that. You have to be in for the long haul. That's why in another chapter, Napoleon Hill talks about burning your boats and having the faith and wanting to do this. And I'm going to tell you one more story, and almost no one tells you this. There's a story of 3 Feet from Gold. A guy named R.U. Darby and his uncle buy some mining equipment. They go in, they find a gold vein, and they start mining it, and voila, it hits gold. And they're very happy and lucky. And for a while, they're, putting money in and pulling money out and putting money in. And then all of a sudden it runs dry. So they dig and they can't find anything. They dig and they can't find anything. They can't dig and they keep digging and can't find anything. And so Darby and his uncle decide, let's cash in, let's sell the equipment. They sell it to the property owner. And they take off. They go, cut our losses and let's get out of here, because there's no gold here. So the story, if you're aware of it, says that the property owner then hired a geologist who said, oh, well, guess what? The most rich vein of gold is 3 feet from where they stopped digging. So he mined it, became fabulously wealthy, whereas R.U. Darby and his uncle didn't. So everybody tells you to persevere. Everybody tells you to persevere. Everybody says that story is about persevering, not giving up, and everything else. But why did they give up? Because they looked for evidence outside themselves for the gold, and when they didn't find it, they thought it wasn't there. And so they said, let's cut our losses and get out of here. Because circumstances didn't match their expectations, they cut and ran. The guy who was the property owner said, well, let's explore this a little further. And they said, but there's gold here. So the gold was always there, but they didn't see it because they tried and they tried and they tried and said, all right, well, I'm going to quit. You know, let's give up. This is too hard, too costly. We're done. Had they dug 3 feet further, they'd have struck gold. What stopped them from being rich in that regard was that they looked at the world and it didn't offer up what they wanted. And so they said, this is bad, let's get out of here. And that's what happens when we focus on the things that are wrong in the world. We see them as problems or challenges or obstacles. I hate the word challenges, by the way, because it's been substituted for, I have a problem. I have, something's really bad. It's nice that they say challenges. Rock climbers like a challenge. They want to be challenging themselves to do better. But most people, when they use the word challenge, are just substituting it for, I have a problem. And the thing is, if you're focused on problems, if you're focused on how the world is bad or wrong or not good, by that, I don't mean you can't correct it. You can't be an activist. You can. You can see a problem, want to correct it without staying focused on the problem. If your house is falling down, it's not enough to continue to focus on the falling down house. You just build the new one or repair it. You have to change your attention to what you're paying attention to, if that makes sense. So
thank you.
Yeah, stuff goes on in the world, and there always will be stuff that we don't agree with, but you have to see past it.
Thank you.
The possibility and into the accessibility and into all the resources and infinite possibilities and opportunities.
Thank you so much. Laurita, you're going to have to wait a little bit because we wanted to complete with an exercise. I do want to do an exercise. And for those of you who are writing me direct messages, don't. I will completely forget. I am totally present with Rex. So you know to email me, and I'm off to Maui tomorrow and won't be back until about the 7th to work. Okay. So
Jackie's question is in the chat.
Write to me after the 7th. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Who was interrupting there?
Huh?
Somebody was interrupting. What were you trying to say?
Jackie's question is in the chat when we couldn't hear her before.
Okay, she has to speak up. We don't want to start looking. I want to have Rex do the exercise now.
Sure.
Thank you.
So most people, when it comes to self-sabotage, they think, here's how I sabotage myself. I want to eat healthy, but I don't. So somehow something about me is sabotaging my desire to eat healthy. I want to stop smoking, but I don't. So there's a part of me that's sabotaging my, and so if you have any of those kinds of thoughts, whether you call it sabotage or not, there's something that you want to do but didn't. You want to clean the house, but you don't. You want to lose weight, but you don't. You eat junk food. You want to realize and recognize this, that you want something different than what you're already doing. Okay. I want to gain weight, but I don't lift weights. I don't go to the gym. I don't do what's necessary. I want to lose weight, but I eat junk food. All right. So if you have something like that, here's what I recommend. Go ahead and write it down. Write down what or how you think you self-sabotage yourself. What is it? And we won't have time for, to go into this, but the point is that you write what you think or how you sabotage yourself. I do this, but instead I do that. Or I want to do this, but instead I want to do that. And you can journal this. And if you want to take notes and do this later, you can do that. If you want to do this now, you can come up with at least one thing. And again, realize and recognize that you're wanting something different from what you've already trained yourself or been conditioned to do. It's like what I said before. If you've been conditioned to bite your nails and you have a habit of biting your nails, and now you say you want to stop, you'll say, well, I want to stop biting my nails, but I keep, finding them in my mouth. Right? So you're conditioned to bite your nails. Your brain doesn't care whether you bite your nails or not. Your brain, if it learned to smoke, you and I know that smoking may not be good for you. Your brain doesn't care. Your brain goes, this is what I do. This is what I do. I smoke, I smoke, I smoke. And when you decide that you want to, your brain goes, no. You're a smoker. You're a smoker. You're a smoker. All right. So write down what it is. Now, when you find out what it is when I say, how do you think you're self-sabotaging yourself? Because every time that if you ask people, like, what stops you from being the person that you want to be? What stops you from ending the nail biting? What stops you from quitting smoking? What prevents you from losing weight? Most people will give you a because. They'll give you a reason. They'll say, well, it's because of this, it's because of that, because when this happens, when that happens, I don't feel like it, because I this, because, because I don't know how, because I can't afford it. They'll give you a reason. Oh, if you start writing those down, and then on top of the reason, what does that reason mean about you? Because if you say, what does it mean about me that I can't stop smoking? What does it mean that when I want to, lose weight, I start eating donuts? What does it mean? They'll say, well, it means I'm not disciplined. It means that I don't this. It means that I don't that. They'll come up with more descriptors, which are usually identifiers. What is your identity? Who are you? I'm not the kind of person for whom this is easy. I find things hard. Now, get that this is an intellectual exercise. And, you can write down all of your beliefs and everything like that. I even mentioned this in your book. But here's the rub. You can't write down all of them. You'll never, if you're alive 40 years on the planet, you've got plenty of beliefs. You'll never, ever uncover them all. But as an exercise, this is about gaining an awareness of what we do. Because if we're not aware of what we do, it's kind of like if you're in the dark, or like, are you Darby? There's gold 3 feet, from where he was underground, but he wasn't aware of it. It's in the dark, it's hidden. So if these things are hidden and we're not aware of them, it helps to shed some light on them at times. So you have these things and realize there's things that you do, like your habit. We talked about this earlier. You're habitual, they're conditioned, they're part of your learning, they're part of your training. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to start reframing them. If you know what reframing means, it means change what you say about it. Like Pollyanna. A lot of people give Pollyanna, they dirt on her. Oh, you're being Pollyanna. That's a rose. You're being syrupy, positively, toxically positive. Pollyanna had the ability to look at a situation and find the good in it, the silver lining, the gold 3 feet, from her, and accentuate that and enhance it and to nurture that. That's what reframing is about. It's not that, it's this. It's not that, it's this. It's not that, it's this. And reframe this recognition that you have as an opportunity. You're discovering an opportunity. It is a gift. The very reason, the very because, the very meaning, all these things that you may come up with now, or if you do this at another time, are gifts. They're gifts. And this is what you need to understand. They're not the bad things. They're the gifts. They're there to preserve you, to keep you the same. And they're assigned a certain thing. So even if it says it means that I'm a person who lacks discipline, that is designed to keep you a certain way, to keep you feeling a certain way. And if you understand, wait a second, and you reframe it, you go, well, maybe I lack discipline up till this moment, but now that I know that it's the discipline I lack, or it's these other things that I lack, or it's these other things that I've been using as excuses, because we tell ourselves stories. And what you'll do is you'll find stories inside of this of why you are the way you are, why things don't work out the way they don't work out. How come you do this instead of doing that? You'll have a story for it, because all of us do. And here's what you're looking for. What is the purpose behind the thought, behind the feeling, behind the self-talk, behind the behavior, behind the story? What does it serve to do? And I promise you, it's not serving to sabotage you. It's not serving to kill you. It's not serving to thwart you. It's being there to keep you consistently the same as what you learned to be. But now that you shine a flashlight on it, you can begin to retrain this. You can begin to say, do I want to live this way anymore? Or would I rather live differently? And if so, how differently would you like to live? And this is an opportunity to reframe it. It's a moment in discovering this is provided for you to awaken. So you reword, you reframe your disappointment in yourself or whatever, in the disappointment behavior, as a gift that is there to increase your awareness so that you can change and transform yourself. It's think of it this way. If every day you walk through your house and you stub your toe against a table, you have two choices, or maybe more. Take a different route to avoid the table or move the table. But if it doesn't occur to you to move the table or take a different route, you continue to bang your toe. So this is the opportunity that you have to take a different route, to take a different pathway, to release the energy from banging your head against the wall of things that you aren't getting or not doing the way you would like to, in order to release that, in order to move the table so that you get unstuck and can move forward. So you find the benefit inside what seems to be the problem. You find the purpose in what seems to be the problem, the silver lining, and then realize that you work perfectly well, you work exceptionally well to get the outcomes you have been getting all along, that you've been previously been getting. You are consistent, you are wonderful, you are marvelous, you're getting everything that you were trained to do. The difference is that you've now changed your mind and you don't want to be doing that. And you haven't yet figured out the way to get free from doing that old habitual mind thinking, feeling, speaking, behaving stuff that gets you results that you don't want. So now you have the opportunity to become grateful. And become grateful that you behaved as you have in all those prior circumstances. Instead of going, you know, this sucked and that sucked and this sucked and I've done 40 years of this and that, become grateful. And realize that all of that time, all of those circumstances, all of those things that happened again and again and again and again were there to help you get your attention, like the water boiling, the noise. It was getting loud enough. Here's another example. Here's another example. Here's another example. Here's the loudness. Here's the noise that allows you to pay attention that transformation is just on the other side of that. It's within that circumstance. The steam comes from the boiling of the water. Your transformation comes from the problems and difficulties and disappointments and the way that you've treated yourself. If you don't love yourself completely and you've been self-loathing, this is the opportunity to realize that those circumstances and events that you've had throughout all of your life are an opportunity to become grateful, and that there is only a disconnect between where you are presently and what you've wanted to do. I mean, get that. Muhammad Ali, for example, said, there's a lot of times I don't feel like training, but if I want to be a world champion, I need to go train. And because his desire to be a world champion was great enough, he got up off the couch and went outside and ran behind the cars, whether it was cold or wet or whatever, in order to fulfill his promise. He didn't say, I don't feel like it, and give in to feelings, because feelings shouldn't dictate who you are. Who you are should dictate the feelings. Because he already thought of himself as a champion, he went out and trained so that he could ultimately be recognized as a world champion. So who you are determines what you do. Don't let what you do determine who you are. And don't let what you want to have necessarily determine what you do in order to have. So you become grateful in this moment and realize you've got the opportunity to retrain yourself, to recondition yourself without that disappointment. If you didn't know what wasn't working, you wouldn't know what to fix or what to change or what to direction. It's kind of like if you're driving down the road and you don't realize that you missed your exit, you just keep going in the same direction. You've missed your exit. So the uncomfortable feeling, the disappointment, the behaviors that you don't want to do are a signal to recognize, hey, here's the off-ramp, here's the off-ramp, here's the off-ramp. You don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to do this anymore. It keeps coming up so that you can let it go. It's a signal, so be grateful and then shift from where you were and the way you considered these a problem to the purpose, to the benefit, and to what you're grateful for, so that you learn to celebrate everything. And when you celebrate it all, you release all of that trapped energy. And when I say trapped energy, that's just a metaphor. I mean, there are people who talk about things being locked in our bodies and things being locked here and this and that and the other. Those are just descriptions of things that may or may not be useful. In some ways, everything is useful. In other ways, everything is not useful. Understand what it is. If you say, I don't have enough energy, you're correct. If you say, I have plenty of energy to do what I want to do whenever I want to do it, then you would be correct too. The point for a lot of people who don't have energy and who have lived that way, go, I need my coffee in the morning in order to get going, is that they've never lived without it. Now they need to train themselves that they do have it, condition themselves that they do have it, discover that they do have it, that they can do it without the coffee, or they can do it with the coffee, but they won't ever know it until they say, you know what, I've been relying on this for so long that I didn't realize it was the very thing that was holding me back. When I say, I'm not good enough, I didn't realize that that was the thing that was keeping me stuck and not being good enough. I mean, I tell because people say, you know, I have these beliefs that hold me back. Well, that's a belief. I mean, think about that. I have a belief that holds me back. That is a belief. Maybe that's the first belief you have to change. And if you have to go and write down all of your beliefs, well, that's another belief you may need to change. You know, you don't have to, and you couldn't anyway. But it's not a bad exercise to begin to wake up to possibilities that you might not have considered. So let me ask you, I don't know how far you've gone, and I've been talking through the exercise. So, and a reason for that, hopefully you're writing while you're hearing. And if not, you can do it later if you so choose. But let me ask you if anybody wants to share anything about what they may have discovered. And understand that this is the snowflake on the tip of Mount Everest. It's not the whole enchilada, but it's opening the doorway. And, you know, if you have a snowflake on the top of Mount Everest and you put a couple more snowflakes with them and you start to roll it, and then you roll it down the mountainside, you know that it creates momentum and it gains mass because it picks up more snowflakes. So when you start doing this kind of thing, you can find that it becomes amazingly powerful for you, but it's just doing the process and letting it become what it is. But the key is to celebrate everything. Oh, hi, Laura.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give them all a big hand. Woohoo! Okay, so we're going to take just a few minutes for any questions because it's after 7. And so we want to make sure that we don't overdo this. Thank you so much. Laura, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, thank you, Rex. The exercise was powerful. I was able to find some really deep and rooted beliefs that doesn't serve me anymore. So thank you for that, because I got the confirmation like in my chest. It was like, yeah, were you thinking that? So thank you for that. And I just want to show up my beloved book because I need to revisit, and I know it's loaded. So just for you to know, it's taking me a lot of time because I need to revisit, but you guys need to have this. I'm complete.
Well, and again, you know, if you've gotten some breakthroughs on this and you've discovered some things, know that they may come up again, or they may not, you know, but they may come up again. And that's an opportunity to continue the progress that you're making and to continue the insights. A lot of people, it's like the smoker who stops smoking and then 6 months later they have a cigarette and they go, oh, screw it, I guess I'll always be a smoker. No, just get back on the horse and keep not smoking, you know? And so but that's beautiful. And as far as the book goes, when people read the book or you do my program or you get the Attitude Active or something like that, experience revisited is truly the mother of wisdom. You know, correct repetition is the mother of progress and of making things permanent. You know, it's what you want to do is revisit. Whenever you, like, people have my some of my audio programs, they come back and go, I've listened to this now 100 times and I just now heard what you said about this particular. That's because you change between listenings. You change between readings the book. So go dive deep, revisit, expose yourself again and again to these kinds of materials, because ultimately it's so beautiful. I want to thank you for sharing that, because it's important for people to know. A lot of people read to get a book done, or they take a program in order to get through it. And that's not how, it's kind of like you don't eat a meal by shoving it all in your face and then going, I don't ever have to eat again. Right? You take a little bite here, a little bite there, a little bite here, a little bit whatever, and then you eat 3 times a day, and the next day you do it again, or 2 times, whatever, you know, it's that constant nourishment that makes a difference. Laura, it's so good to see you. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, Carol Hodges.
Hi,
You're the
Rex.
last one.
Hi, Carol.
Okay. All of this so resonated because I found I have little discussions with myself, and now sometimes dreams talk to me. I got a dream woke me up the other day saying, "Can you still do a double pirouette?" And I thought that's a really weird question because I did start dancing when I was 30, but I haven't done double pirouettes in a while. And then I thought there's something in this. And much like you said, being grateful for this strange message, what I realized is when I'm in the process of creating some new things in my life, when I learned to double pirouette, it was step by step. And first I learned how to prepare, and then you start into motion. And I could get around one time with just that. But twice really had me a lot of difficulty until I began to realize to do it in my sleep.
Mhm.
See myself doing it while I slept.
Right.
And initially I couldn't. I could only do one inside my own head. But the time came and where I could start to see myself doing it twice, and then I could do it in reality. Now, what I got, because this was a recent dream, is you've been preparing, you've been starting into action. Now you have to remember to pull it in and all together, full energy, and you can do the double pirouette. And I feel like it's everything you've said.
Oh, it's beautiful.
In
Well,
reality.
It's beautiful. And my guess is there's all sorts of other applications for that in your life. I mean, it's a message, it's your own message to yourself about what you're able to do and accomplish and how you did that, and what you discovered along the way to be able to make that happen. And that's very beautiful. That's really very wonderful. Awesome. In my live programs, I teach juggling, for example, because juggling, not so people can be expert jugglers, but because part of juggling is dropping balls. And people don't think about that. They go, I just want to juggle. But if you go, you know what, you're going to drop balls, then get that out of the way and then go. And some people go, well, I'm never going to get this. And you go, you're never going to get it if that's how you think about it. And some people go, I can't imagine myself. I can't imagine myself as a juggler. Well, yeah, you can't until you can. So when you saw yourself being able to do the double pyramid, it opens up everything for you because thought precedes action. Everything, people sometimes don't get this because they say, I feel a certain way, so I'm thinking a certain way. But it's true. They aren't one or the other, but thought precedes action. If you say, I want to go to the movies, then you go to the movies. If you say, I want to get myself something to eat, and you go to the refrigerator or you call somebody up, it's the thought that does it. And some people can't yet imagine being successful or having a wonderful romance or living a life that they deserve or all those kinds of things. But when they get there, when they go, I deserve this, I can do it, I can imagine. And it doesn't mean that you have to see it. It just means that you have to feel it or experience it, or have a sense of it or see it, in your mind. But you saw yourself doing it, you were already accomplished, right? So
and
that's
it's energy.
And
just like you said, it was the additional energy that had to come and accept the additional energy in order to do it.
And when you're seeing yourself accomplished doing it, you're living from that feeling of that wish already fulfilled.
Yes.
Not I want to do this, but I'm already doing it. And when you already did it and could do that, then it opened it for you. And that's the point of so much of what we're talking about today, is that people they go, I can't imagine that. And that's why Henry Ford said, if you think you can't, or you think you can, you're correct. And so what a beautiful story, experience and story. And thank you so much for sharing that. That's really wonderful. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you for inspiring it tonight.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's time to go. Thank you. Paul, is it urgent? Can you do it real quick? Because it's getting late.
I can do it really, 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 really quick.
Thank you.
And I need to be speedy too.
Okay, so Rex, it's nothing you have to really comment on, but I just want to say that I'm really amazed and I really love how you express what people are feeling and what we're going through. And I so appreciate that. And what I noticed something in my life being stuck when I'm trying to raise money and go out, because I've been driving around feeding homeless and taking care of disabled vets. And, you know, I've got my nonprofit up and started, and I'm really pushing and working. And I always see there's a stumbling block. But then yesterday I was on Facebook and somebody showed how to beat the Rubik's Cube in 9 moves. That is so simple. I'm going, and I always thought it was impossible, but literally it says take it any way and go this, 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 and then do that 9 times and it always works. And I'm going, so what I thought was impossible was a simple mechanism of turning the same thing exactly the same way 9 times in a row. It automatically solves it 100% of the time. So now I'm going out there and I'm going to start meeting with a lot of people and really moving this thing, because there's a lot of people on the streets. And like I'm saying, I'm going out there feeding them, and some of them were starving, literally starving. And the feeling that you get inside when you hand them a bag full of food, or you take care of them, or you get them someplace, is indescribable, which is why I really want to push being Santa all year long and really take care of things. So I just appreciate how you say things and have it help me open up my heart. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. And what work you do is so beautiful and amazing. And understand, as I know that you do, and I hope that you do, is that, as Jesus said, what you do for the least of these, you do for me. You know, and you are doing a valuable and an incredible service. And if anybody ever wants to feel better, go help somebody who's less fortunate than them. You know, do exactly what you're doing. Smile at the doorman or the person at the coffee shop, you know, say hello or nod, you know, just spread this goodwill around, because we're all in it together. And yet, you know, I love the mythology that says we chose to be here, that we're God, and we've disguised ourselves in different stations in life and different personalities and different people and everything else, but we're all the same. And we made this choice, and it's just about us remembering that ultimately we come back to the fact that we're God's. And so the person who some people pass on the street is just as much God as anyone else. The least of these is just as important as the most important of these. And so you're doing an incredibly impressive, valuable work. Doria and the people who are, you know, trying to help feed the world, and help veterans, help people, help women, you know, or people who are abused, all absolutely wonderful and beautiful. I thank you for that. And again, you know, my message is celebrate everything. It essentially is this, and I know that it sometimes steps on people's toes when I say it, but we are all God, we are all gods, and most people act as if they're not. They just act as if they're not. And the one thing that brought me into my power, I was about 25 years old, and I went, you know, whether I reincarnate millions of times, or whether I'm here for one time, whether there's no God, or whether there's a God and I go to heaven or hell, this is the life that is crucial for me to get. This is the one that I'm aware of. And the more that I can be aware, the better I'm off, and better off I am. And I realized that I'm in the world, and I acted as if I was not an owner of the world. So when I came into my power, I went, I own this place, I own the world. And then I would say, I would tell the people, I own LA. I mean, you'll see me sometimes go, oh, well, that's because I own LA. And people would get really mad. They go, what makes you think you own it? I go, well, look, I share it with other co-owners. I don't go through the people's backyards. I don't prohibit this. You know, we're all owners. But when I decided I was an owner of the planet, I was responsible for the planet.
Thank you.
You are doing a beautiful work, and I thank you.
Yeah. I guess Doria takes over now.
Yes, indeed. And
Thank
by the
you
way, anyone who wants to come and visit me, please do come and visit me. Come to rexsikes.com. And if you get the book, I'll give you the training. I mean, all those kinds of things, or you get the edited actor. We connect here. If you have questions, email me, you know, let me know. Let's stay in touch. I have a newsletter. If you go to my website, you can sign up for the newsletter. Just anything. I mean, I want to add as much value as I can. If you jump into a program, I'm there to coach you either in groups or however, we do it live, Facebook groups and Zooms and things like that. So, as well as live events. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here and to share. And I hope it's been valuable for you who have been live and for those who will watch the replays. And just know that, again, your gods live as if you are. You deserve it.
And please put the link back to your book in the chat.
It's right there, rexsikes.com/book. But yeah, somebody can do that. That would be great.
All right, let's give them a big hand. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Doria.
Thank
you. Are we closing down?
Yes, we are.
Can I?
Everybody's got.
Bye-bye.
No, I understand, and I wanted to go. I was just wondering quickly if anybody wants to share any important takeaways with me, and we can't do it here because we're closing down. I'd love to hear from you by email, and at the website there'll be a support link or something like that. You just contact me that way. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and what your takeaways are, because that's truly important to me. Is to say,
oh, I can leave it open if you want to go ahead. I have to go. I'm traveling tomorrow. And but what I can do is, you are already, I can make you the host and you can continue. And we have paused the recording right now. So because
you record, so we can continue. And what do? I just close it out.
I'm going to make you the host.
Okay.
And I will have no control. I will have no control once I make you host.
Okay. But when I'm done, do I have to stop a recording or do I just leave?
No, you just leave.
Okay.
Let me see. Can somebody,
Oh.
somebody's talking, please mute yourself. Thank you. All right. So you are going to be in complete control. You just hang up at the end, okay?
Well, we'll just take a few minutes, but I just thought it would be nice if people wanted to share so that
I'm okay with it. You can stay as long as you want.
Okay.
Just don't start recording again, because otherwise we have to edit and all that.
No, I won't. If you start the recording back, we'll do it.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused.
Well, it says recording pause.
I am going to stop the recording. The other part, you wanted that to be part of it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just keep it. I don't know when you pause the recording, but if they want to leave their comments on a recording, that's fine. I would love that.
Okay, just make sure that there isn't any interruptions. Otherwise, we have to go back and edit and do all this work.
No, we won't. And we're only going to spend a few minutes. I just wanted to hear if people had, a takeaway or some insight.
So I'm going to go back and record. Anybody have a takeaway you'd like to raise your hand? Raise your hand now.
If they don't.
Rex, you're in charge.
Okay, but if they don't, we could just end. But if somebody had something that was important that they'd like to say, I'd like to be able to have them say it.
Anybody? Hello? Okay.
I would love to share. I think, Rex, I really enjoy your talk this morning, Rex. You can make me co-host, Doria.
Okay, and Wendy is our partner, is our promoting partner, who is actually distracting me with WhatsApp. Don't do that, Wendy. Okay.
You did not need to reply me.
I know, but I know.
So thank you. That's great. And so that we move this, along, let's just have the takeaways. I don't need to say anything. I just say thank you or wow. But you know what I mean is
Wendy, what was your takeaway? Okay.
I thought it was so simple but so excellent. So I already bought your attitude activator, and I'll be listening to it from today onwards, and I will update you what comes up from there.
Please do.
So it's really, really, really good. I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Yeah, please do. And if you're not familiar with the process that's there, it may seem a little unfamiliar at first, but just hang with it. You'll love it. It's all good. Thank you. I'm glad they got it. That's awesome. Anyone else? Let's see. I'm trying to figure out. Rosalind, go ahead.
Yes, yes. Hi, Riggs. Thank you so much for what you have shared with us. It was so very insightful for me. I've been struggling with my identity in a sense. I've been freelancing for a bit since COVID, and I've been like trying to juggle a lot of things together. Trying to push myself to do a lot of programs with my life coaching, and then doing real estate and doing so much stuff. But I always question myself, Ross, what do you really want to do? And to a point that I ask myself, are you sure you can do this, Ross? Are you sure you want to do this? And are you sure? But I know that I can. And I've for the last few weeks, I've been feeling very stuck. And for some reason, I received an email from Dora, and then I says, whoa, wait, I really got to make time for this. And my takeaway is the questions that you asked about reframing the situation and looking at the good and the bad and identifying them as a gift, because those are reasons of how it will propel me or how it will hold me back. And the other question is that, how is that serving me?
Beautiful.
I'm like, sorry, what? What do you mean by how is it serving me? And also to reframe the disappointment. I'm like, I tend to beat myself up all the time.
Let me just stop you and say that's what you did in your past. In my past, I tended to beat myself up, but now you have an opportunity to feel differently, behave differently. Right?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So continue. I don't mean to interrupt you. One other thing I would say is a question you might want to ask is, what would I love to be doing? What really do I love? What would thrill me? What would bring me the most joy, or even a little bit of joy? What would I like to do? What would I love to do? What could I be doing that I, love and enjoy? As opposed to what must I do or want to do or have to do, or, find it in terms of things that just, are softer and more enjoyable and more loving and more kind and more gentle for you.
Wow, this is so deja vu for me. I was asking my question that last night. And he says, okay, what sort of adventure do I want so that I can be a little bit more lighthearted? And I was just reading a book by Florence Novoshin, and he says that what sort of money will not come to me if there's resistance. Money will only come when there's joy. So what are joyful things that I want to do? And I was just asking myself that last night before I went to sleep, and I says, okay, I don't know, but show me the way, and then you talk about this today, talking about the energy, talking about the vibration, and yeah. And it's just so beautiful. It seems as if like a lot of things are coming together for me, but I definitely will go in there to buy the book, because I didn't want to have to be distracted by all those processes, while listening to you at the same time. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And for you and anyone who does buy the book, what happens is you go to my website, it'll tell you to go to Amazon, get the book and bring a receipt code back and put it there, and that will unlock the bonus training that I gift you, which is a beautiful accompaniment. You got a training on mastery and how to master things. And so it's right there available to you. So be sure, for sure, anyone who's bought it or is going to buy it, or if you buy it for other people, be sure that you go ahead and get the training.
Right, great. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Beautiful insights that you've had. And thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you. Chris.
Oh my God, faith, rethinking faith as certainty. That was just so beautiful. Thank you. I mean, really awesome thought.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. When you were starting, you were talking about how we are like an unformed mass when we're born, and we're developed further and further. I'm watching very much artificial intelligence right now and the neural networks. And I believe that in 6 months, we will all be talking in terms of, yeah, we're an unprogrammed neural network when we're born. And then, yeah, we develop our neural connections, and that will explain actually a lot of that.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing in that the science of how we wire things into our brain, has evolved. At one time, they would say, well, it's like the vinyl records where you put the needle in a groove, and it goes around this thing, and that's how we're programmed, but literally, and we have this notion of, Hibb's law, the idea that neurons that fire together wire together. So things that happen in proximity to other things, help lock those things in. So that's why positive emotional experience or really profound negative experience become the things that we remember. I mean, consider this for a second, and this is important in terms of the vibration, is that we all operate on intense feelings. What you remember in life, for the most part, are the significant positive experiences and the significant negative experiences. And the rest of the stuff we forget. I mean, you don't need to remember every meal you've ever eaten, right? You don't remember every time you went to the gas station. You don't remember every party you've attended. But the ones that, some celebrity showed up or something bad happened, we tend to remember. And for people, what they do is they tend to lock on to the less than glorious experiences and catalog those and then relive those over and over and over again, instead of understanding that those happened. That person who got punched in the face when you were 10 years old, the person who punched you might not even be alive anymore. That's gone. And people keep these things alive in their memory because they've been trained how to do that. We've been conditioned to do that. We repeated it consistently for long enough until it became a habit to go back and go, here are my negative experiences. What happened for me, I mean, I've had lots of really horrible experiences in my life by some people's descriptions, and yet every single one of those, including all the people who were the nastiest people ever to me, have been gifts. It took me a while to realize this or recognize this because I was too busy caught up in the emotions or the drama or the woe is me kind of stuff. But when I realized that person who's treated me, let me just share a brief story with you. I'm in an ashram and I've taken a spiritual name, and in this case, in other places you're given one, but in this case, you actually pulled from a deck of cards, right? And I'm in this ashram for like 3 months and I've been given kitchen duty, and the guru is off doing satsang, and I want to get to satsang, and I'm having to sweep the kitchen floor. And somebody else is at this table and they're cutting vegetables. And so I get to them, I said, would you please move aside so I could sweep under there? And the person said to me, would you please wait while I finish this up? And I said, well, but if you move, I could just sweep. And he goes, well, but if you just wait, I could finish. I said, yeah, but you don't understand. I really just want to sweep it. Just step this. And he goes, no, you don't understand. And we got into this argument and we're yelling. We're in this spiritual guru place, the whole thing, and we're yelling at each other. And so all of a sudden we hear pounding coming down this hallway, and it's people running in, and they go, never in the history of the ashram could we hear an argument in the kitchen all the way into the meditation hallway, which is like, a football field away. And so here this guy and I look at each other, right? And we're like, oh, we're sorry. And I said, well, I'm so-and-so. And he goes, well, I'm so-and-so. And we had the exact same name. Out of the 300 people living there, the only 2 people with that name were yelling at each other, wanting the other person to do something. And I went, oh my gosh, if this isn't an analogy, an allegory, a metaphor for everything that's going on in life, all those people who I think are giving me the finger and yelling at me, they're just me helping me to wake up. And I'm thinking there's somebody else over there being a dick, they're being a jerk. No, they're my gift. They're going, hey, I'm getting your attention this way. Now, what are you going to do with it? It's such a beautiful world. It's so immense with mystery and nuance and beauty and life. To not celebrate it is the sad part, because most people don't.
Yeah.
And those people, for those people, many of them who've had horrible experiences in their life, they look back and go, you know what, that was my defining moment. That was the moment where I became free. If it hadn't been for that experience, if it hadn't been for certain experiences in my life, I wouldn't have the children that I have. Yeah, maybe I'd have other children, but that's not the point. Because of what went on, I met somebody, I got involved, I did this, I have children. And, you know, I mean, I'm like, but it happened because of something that some people would call horrible. But from it, I've got, you know, a life of children. So, and as a result of having children, I've got my girl dogs. It's all a blessing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I have one more question because I don't see another hand raised. You talk about repetition, yeah, and again in neural networks we know repetition, but I did have an experience, and there was also a time where I almost died, so a very intense experience, and then shortly after that I was thinking about smoking. I was a real strong smoker, 32 years old, and maybe 2 packs a day. And I just thought to myself, I did not come to this earth to die of a lung disease. And I never smoked again from that moment. No repetition needed, no training needed. I was just so awake in that moment that I could immediately change.
That's beautiful. And transformation can occur like that. And no matter how many times you had the example prior to that, you know, it's when you're ready, the teacher appears. When you're ready, the lesson appears. When you're ready, the transformation appears. When you go from 211 degrees to 212 degrees, the transformation into steam. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, too.
Great pleasure.
So if there's anyone else that wants to say something, we will allow that. If not, we'll just say good night and say have a beautiful rest of the weekend wherever you are and however you have it.
Thank you again.
Rex Sikes.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Love the chat, love the conversation. I have Jackie in the chat here, and she was, since she can't speak, I decided to be her voice.
Sure.
She says, Tim, will you ask Rex if I can market the Attitude Activator to my hypnotherapy clients and people in our online community? Sometimes they can't afford to work with me and really need help getting unstuck. This would be an affordable tool for many of them. Plus, some of my folks will want Rex's tools. In addition, I'm happy to promote others like Rex who are the real deal and working for the evolution of human consciousness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are people, just Jackie said that, you know, there are people who buy, you know, like a box of books or a box of tape, not tapes, but audio programs. Or if you want to market it, or however, if you want to gift people or, you know, we figure out a way, I don't know, you know, how work out something, you know, there are distributors for my stuff and things like that. So whatever works, if you got Tim in the chat, then somewhere you've got support@rexsikes.com or something. But that's such a beautiful question, and it's so very cool that you want to serve these people who might be clients or can't afford to be clients, or who are clients, but that you are so generous and so wonderful to even suggest that. I really do appreciate that. That's really spreading the goodwill around, and thank you. That's an act of compassion, and it warms my heart. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Rex, and you're welcome, Jackie. And I'll contact you. I've got your contact from the chat. So awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll all good, and you'll be in touch with Tim. So thank you. Anyone else, and then we'll close out. Wow. You have been marvelous. Thank you for hanging out, for being here, for investing your time, your energy, and effort to be with me and Doria and the others tonight. Thank you for sharing and for the questions and for paying attention. I mean, I don't take that lightly. You know, you could have been doing other things and you were here. So I'm very, very happy. that you were here. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful
Thank you, Rex.
calibration. Rex, one more thing. Just to let you know, the Attitude Activator and Rex's courses are stored on Kajabi. It's on the cloud. So you don't need to worry about space if you live in an RV or if you, I mean, I listen in my car. I listen on the train. I live in Philadelphia, so there's plenty of travel time.
But you don't listen driving. You listen as a passenger.
That's right. That's right. I'm
Right.
a professional passenger, especially in Philadelphia. And so you can have it up. There's the mobile app on your phone, or you can do it anywhere you can connect to the web, or 5G. Works great.
Wow.
So there you go. There you have it.
Cool. And let me just say this to those of you who are here, those who watch the review. If you've enjoyed this and you'd like to go further, come join me in a class. I would love to have you. It's one thing for me to be able to present to people. It's also wonderful for me to be surrounded by really, truly wonderful people. So I learn from you, you learn from me. If you want, come join me in a class. And I would be so very thrilled to have you participate. We've got the mind design, we've got how to get people to do what you want, which is a communication course. We've got the ultimate NLP, we've got change your thoughts and transforming. I mean, just a lot of stuff that if you want to take this further and dive deeper, I'd love to have you join me.
Being Jackie's voice again. I don't know how my impression is, Jackie. I apologize if I'm off the mark. But Jackie says she'd love to train. She'd love to do some co-training with you, Rex, and we should do a summit together.
Yeah, I love the idea. Let's talk more about that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So there are, I mean, think about it. We have opportunities for all of us to connect in some ways that might be some form of venture that offers great value to other people in other places through a variety of formats, as well as the opportunity to come and train with me if you'd like to do that. So I'm always open. This is why I say celebrate everything. You never know where it's going to go. And if you're like, are you Darby, who says, yeah, no, then you miss out on all sorts of opportunities. So thank you. And thank you for that. And thank you, Rosalind. That's very kind of you. Thank you. All right. Well, it looks like we can close, and then you can go spend time with your families or friends or whatever you have to do. But wherever you go, carry this with you. Carry love in your heart, celebrate everything, and know that we're all one. And so let's live as one and enjoy it. And with that, peace, blessings, and much love.
Thank you, Rex. Have a great
you.
evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Namaste,
everybody.
Rex.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Sanam.
You can't see me. Pops out.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Enjoy. Enjoy. As we leave together. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Rex.